It's time for MacBreak Weekly. I'm back. Jason Snell, thank you for filling in. There is something to talk about. Even though the iPhone is already out, Jason's got them, many colors. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about flaws with the iPhone, why it might not be selling as well. Where is Apple AI? Plus, what's coming in October? All that coming up and more next on MacBreak Weekly.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
This is MacBreak Weekly, episode 940, recorded Tuesday, September 24th, 2024. NSA Grandmas. It's time for MacBreak Weekly, the show where we cover the latest Apple news. Hello, everybody. I'm back from vacation. And I want to thank, first of all, Jason Snell for doing such a Marvy job last week. Can you knock it off? Please.
All right, I'll be more boring. And
I don't want to.
No, it is fine, Leo. Things are going great now.
I don't want to be Wally pipped here. Okay, Mr. Gehrig. No, thank you. I appreciate it. You did a great job. Everybody was commending you. And I understand that you mentioned me in the context of Leo took the only week. There's a lot of Apple news.
two weeks. We had probably two of the highest news content weeks of the year.
I'll see you guys later.
Yeah. And Leo, who complains the whole summer, like, oh, there's nothing going on. What are we going to talk about? Bye. I'm out of here. See ya.
I don't actually want Apple news. That's the thing. Andy Iannaco's also here, WGBH in Boston. Hello, Andrew.
Hello. Hope we didn't break Jason for you.
No, he broke Twit for me. He made it too good. So knock it off. It's good to see you, Andy.
He was quite wonderful.
He was quite wonderful. Alex Lindsay was wonderful Sunday on Twit. We had Alex in. Thank you for doing that.
Pleasure.
And he's back again from officehours.global. Of course, Jason, I didn't mention it, 6colors.com. And he has all 6 colors.
I have to admit something here, Leo. Last week, just because I am a bad substitute teacher, I did not tell people to get back to work.
Break time is over?
I told them break time could continue for an entire week. And they could
940 episodes. We didn't miss it once.
I said the thing, but I just said it in reverse because I'm a bad substitute teacher.
That's like the rookie mistake of like a first-year teacher. They want to be the popular teacher, the one that's the friend to all the kids.
I think
when they don't understand that what the kids really want is discipline and predictability.
I think what we likened it to is that a member of the class had been asked to be the substitute teacher, and that is dangerous material there. Anyway.
Well, you did a good job. No, I thank you. I'm not sure Apple did a good. I got my new iPhone, as I'm sure many of you did. This is the so-called Desert Titanium. I asked Lisa, "What color is that?" She said, "Pink." I said, "It's not pink." She said, "Well, maybe it's rose gold." I said, "It's not rose gold." Jason, show us all the colors you have.
On the phone with no name, something like that. I don't know.
You have all the colors in front of you, don't you? Can you press that button?
Let's see if I can do that.
There it is.
Oh, there it is. Hello.
Desert Titanium on the left.
Desert Titanium. I don't have all the colors. I have some colors. This is the Pro in Desert Titanium. Yeah. This is the Pro in Natural Titanium, which is, gray.
Silver,
but it's
gray,
nice.
Yeah.
It's very silver gray. It's very nice. And then in the middle, I have two beautiful iPhone 16s. And I mean, I'm not kidding here. I think these are the best colored phones. I really liked the orange coral iPhone XR, but like it's been years since Apple has made phones in colors that are quite this spectacular. Even the blue 15 was a little more muted. These are super bright. And apologies for my dimly lit garage, but these are very just incredibly striking. The pink and the blue, incredibly striking. So that's a pink plus and a blue 16, and they did a great job with the color on the cheaper models.
They're definitely real colors. They're not like, okay, we'll give you a gray, but we tinted it a little bit.
No, in fact, I should have shown Lisa that pink because that's the pink. That's really pink.
What I want to know, Jason, is that
the thing behind me is pink.
We know how much control Apple likes to have like over like reviews and stuff like that. At this point, do they give you like a custom color LUT? So that if you are like doing a video, to make sure that the colors are absolutely correct what they want them to be?
I think No, I think if you were a YouTuber, and Apple's gotten so much better at YouTubers and influencers and trying to get them involved in this. You see it now. Like I got 10 years of this game, but like a blogger today would not be asked to review these products, right? But they know how many people influencers and YouTubers reach. And I'll tell you, if they felt like there was a YouTuber who wasn't setting their white balance correctly, there would be a conversation. I do think that would actually, I think it would be as simple as like, it doesn't really, can we help? Can we send somebody to calibrate I think that's what they would probably do more than anything else. Yeah. Just it's not quite right. You're not.
I mean, before we get into the actual briefing, I was having a chat with Marcus Brownlee about lighting, and my goodness, but before he got the big lighting grid, he says that he just spent $80 on a single light balanced bulb. I think I even happen to remember the name and the Amazon link to
Jason,
that.
would they do that with you when at the magazines? Would they contact you about the colors of the phone pictures?
Oh yeah, I mean, certainly they cared. Here, I've got some. I want to show these cases to our video audience. The cases also look really great. They did a great job with the case design in general. But
actually, that brings up one question, because the biggest. Sure. Oh, go ahead. Finish the question I asked last time.
The previous question. We're gonna be worlds inside worlds here. Yeah, they cared. They care about misrepresentation of their products and how their products look. There is a certain degree, and it changes from era to era of PR people. But we've definitely had issues where what do we do? We did a CGI Mac that was kind of like smashed, and smoke was coming out of it because it was like prevent the headline was like prevent Mac disasters. It was the cover. I thought it was really clever, and they were a little concerned that we were suggesting. I mean, clearly that Mac had been crushed by something. It had been hit by a meteor or something, but they were like, you're taking our product and defacing it and putting it on a magazine cover. But Leo, this is the thing. As the editor, I would have listened. I understand your issue.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's our speech.
Press,
although I will say, magazine covers are not free speech. They are marketing, and therefore the rules are a little bit different than the words you put inside.
Interesting.
If you've got a time
put
machine,
the smashed Mac inside, it would be okay. But
there's a question. I mean, you can't just say free speech, because are you appropriating something or misappropriating something in order to sell magazines? It's slightly different. It's just more complicated in terms of media law. But we also had one. Forgive me if I've told this story before, where we did a customize your Mac issue, and we had a bunch of fanciful Macs. We had like a matrix guy with a cube. This is how long ago this was, and we had an iMac, one of those G3 iMacs. And we put cow spots on it and had a cowboy roping it. Oh,
fun.
And it turned out that was about 1 month before they introduced the Blue Dalmatian iMac, which also had cow spots on it. And we got a call, and I'm not quite sure what they thought, because we didn't understand what their problem was. And then like 2 months later or whatever, an iMac that looked just like it came out. And we're like, all right. But what are they going to do? Say like, no, don't put a thing on from the future. Like, I don't know. Anyway, they care. They know that there's a limit to what they can do, but they do care about how they're perceived. And a lot of times you will get a little nudge after the fact saying, I didn't, we have some questions. They won't say don't do it, but like they will occasionally do that, where they're like, you kind of misrepresented our product there.
They crushed everything but a Mac in that ad that they did.
Yeah, I will tell you another one of the rules about assigning or agreeing to a reviewer guideline and getting review units, and this goes back to when I say it you'll get it, is you can't take it apart. Because in the early days, everybody who would get a review unit, they would review it, and then they would do a tear down, or they'd do a smash test. And Apple has said now, like, if you want to go out after they come out and buy one and take it apart, we can't stop you.
That's in fact what iFixit does. They go down to they get their Australian
Australia or New Zealand,
it.
Where they can get it on at midnight. Yeah. And then so that's just one of the reviewer rules, is you don't take these apart. These are the ones we're giving you to review, not to smash.
And that's totally fair, because they are still Apple's property. They're not like they're not gifts to the reviewers. So yeah, they have a right to do that. And like you said, if you want to take it apart, fine, just buy one. Yeah. And that's a perfectly reasonable thing to do.
Do that.
Yeah, and then we
So
learned
my
things.
other question was, getting back to the iPhone, the biggest fix, it seems to me the only biggest change in the iPhone besides colors is this new controls button. And
Right.
how are
Camera control.
cases handling that capacitive button on the side?
Well, if you're Apple, you knew it was coming, and you built a camera control button into all your cases that actually carries the touch through.
So that's a
and all of that.
capacitive button.
It is
itself
a capacitive button.
on the case.
And if you're a
Yeah.
case manufacturer right now, you did a cutout, and it's not going to be very good.
No.
But I imagine that they are all, scrambling to figure out how can they build a capacitive button into their cases and then build that into the next generation that come out. But I will tell you, I think the case experience on one of these Apple cases or the Beats case that have the capacitive buttons is very good. And this is Apple using their advantage. Like, Apple knows exactly what that thing is before it ships, and the case manufacturers have to guess. And it's going to be costly for them. They're going to lose some sales. They're going to get some complaints, and then they're going to have to build a new set of cases that will cost more to manufacture because they're going to need that button in it.
I did this last year too. I bought the Peak Design case when it first came out because I don't like bare raw dog in my iPhone, and it didn't have it did the same thing. It had a cutout for the action button, and then later they updated it with an actual button. And I bet you, because I ordered the Peak Design, I'm going to have the same thing.
It's right there.
I'm gonna have to.
Alex,
Is that the new Peak Design, Alex?
Yeah, this is the new
got a
Peak
cutout.
Design.
It's got a cutout.
It's got a cutout
darn
there.
it.
I can't
Yeah.
get it in focus.
I have to say that camera button's nice. I was able to take the camera icon off of my dock. I don't have a camera
Yeah.
icon anywhere on my iPhone anymore.
It's
because
still a work in progress. They just came out with I think it's a beta that includes I think it's the push to focus feature. Like it's just like Apple Intelligence. There are some features that just aren't there quite yet.
Yeah.
But if you look at the base of it, press to bring up the camera and press to shoot. There's complexity behind it, but I love how non-complex it is to take a picture. And then also, if you go into accessibility settings for it, there's a load of them, and you can say, I don't want to press as hard to do the halfway.
That's the first thing I did. I set it to lighter.
Yeah,
A
and
number
you
of
can do
people
lighter
said,
or hard or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's super smart too. Plus, it works with third-party apps, so Halide supports it, and Obscura is going to support it, and I think they did a really great job with this feature. I also love the fact that it's a button that moves, but also has a haptic at the bottom of the movement. So when you get to the bottom, it's almost like a little spring goes ping when you reach it to just verify. You're like, yeah, you've reached bottom. You bottomed out. It did the thing that you wanted it to do. Man, Apple's hardware design. We talk a lot about Apple software being a little bit of a mess. When Apple does good hardware design and has some software infusing around it, every now and then you go, oh yeah, they killed it with that. Yeah,
that was a great design. You realize, of course, this is being released end of summer, start of fall. You forget that has to be a mechanical button, because in a couple months people are going to be operating that with gloves. So you can't just have it full capacitance, even though they have both those things in it. iFixit did their tear down, and of course they tore down the button. And again, they discovered a chip with a force sensor in it, as well as the mechanical button. They also, however, found something that we might want to keep an eye on. So it takes the actual location of this button takes the place of one of the iPhone 15's 2 millimeter wave antennas.
Yeah.
So they're saying that now there's only one left by the camera. And so I'm sure they wouldn't have done that if they weren't convinced that people would still have the same experience connecting to mobile. But I guess we're just going to have to see. It might be one of those things. It might even be one of those things where if you hold it horizontally now, the way you hold it, maybe that's going to have a weaker signal than if you hold it the way that people normally hold it. I'm not going to make the joke that everyone's thinking I'm going to make, but it's interesting, something to follow up on.
You're referencing it wrong, Ben. What?
Well, and I think that Apple, we've talked about this before, but Apple has really doubled down in realizing that, the reason we buy the new phone is not because of AI, it's because of the camera. We're looking for the camera features. I know that put off buying it right now. I've got the case, but
It's funny. You bought the case, but not the phone.
You sent to me. Cosmo, thank you for the case.
That is the truest sign of
The case is an
iPhone.
aspirational purchase.
Can you ask them to send me the good case when they fix it?
Just
Yeah.
visualize
I
the
bought
phone.
$60 down the tubes.
Yeah. But I'm holding off a little bit on it just because I was like, I got to really see if the camera's really worth it. Like I do use the 0.5 a lot. So I've gotten into this thing where I take pictures of my kids and I just make sure that what it needs is a guide, but you put their face right in the center so it doesn't get distorted, and you get these incredible like shots of them somewhere, right? And so I really enjoy that, but I don't know if it's worth upgrading yet and really for what I was waiting for was the spatial camera, the spatial video to go to 4K per eye, which it didn't do. And so when it didn't do that, I was like, well, we'll see if they actually update that API.
Yeah.
So this is the where'd it go? I closed it by accident. iFixit spends most of their review on the new battery release function, which lets you, which actually releases the battery when you electrify the glue. Yeah. But here's the camera control button. They ask the question: is the camera control button actually a button? And as you said, Andy, it's an IC, laser welded IC. So it's both physical and it has a force sensor, a strain gauge that turns tiny amount of deformation into changes in resistance. So that's how it senses half presses. The clicks are haptic, right? Or maybe not.
Well, it is. So you move the button and it bottoms out. But
so there is a
at the bottom there. Yes, but at the bottom there is a haptic that fires. So you get that
it's a hybrid thing
feel. It's very satisfying when it happens.
It's very cool.
But if you turn it off completely and you press the button, you can feel it. It's still a button. Real button.
iFixit gave it very high repair scores, the highest in a long time, because of this easy remove battery feature.
So they gave it 7 out of 10, whereas the previous model got 4 out of 10, and most of it was about how easy it is to on the iPhone 16, not the iPhone 16 Pro. The iPhone 16 Pro uses the same pull out adhesive as last year's iPhone 15 Pro, but the iPhone 16 uses this new type of adhesive that de-sticks when you basically put 9 volts across it. And you would think that, oh well, Apple has a special sophisticated tool. No, you basically get a battery, get a 9 volt battery, and basically short the contacts across it.
Wow.
The downside though is that it's not like magic where I've got the new battery in and now I just reverse the process. No, the Apple also released the repair guide for this sort of thing, and they mentioned that when you get the replacement battery, you peel this thing off the back of it. So obviously they're talking about having its own using Apple certified batteries. It's encased in metal, which is another thing that they're saying will help with heat. And they also took a look at a thing that I think we talked about it a little bit a couple of weeks ago about the repair assistant as a way of getting one of the things that iFixit has always been quite correctly kind of on Apple's back about and other people's back about is the idea of having repair parts sort of like tied and coded down to the user. So if you were to swap out a camera module or a battery and it's not an Apple approved part, you can swap it in, but suddenly it won't work anymore because there's a systems check that says, hey, this isn't an authorized battery. I'm not doing anything. So in iOS 18, they have now a repair assistant that pops up if it detects that there's like a new swapped in thing. And they tested it out, and they found that they tested it out last week before they had their iPhone 16 that they bought, and they found it buggy with the iPhone 15. When they tried it on their absolute plain vanilla iPhone 16, and I'm talking about like swapping pretty much everything in and out, they said it worked flawlessly. And for that reason, they actually explicitly said that, okay, we're kind of cool, we're not necessarily cool with it, but most of what we were complaining about has been mitigated because of how well it worked on iPhone 16. So they're very, very happy about it.
It'll be really interesting to see what happens based on what happened last week in Lebanon. It'll be really interesting to see how the Fixit stuff goes, because I think that a lot of companies are going to start backtracking to wanting to register all the components, because they're going to at least want to have something when you open up the operating system tells you if anything's ever been open, touched, done with this phone. It's going to give you an alert every time as soon as you bring it out of reset, saying, hey, and it'll bring it up it'll bother you that something's changed, because that change, what happened in Lebanon last week changed everything about how people look at electronic components, and so, having proof that all of these components are produced by the manufacturer for that is going to become a bigger deal. I think it won't happen this year or next year, but I think as you look at 3 to 5 years down the road, the chain's going to change because people want to have all those people are going to worry about security.
Yeah, I mean, it's not something that would affect Apple necessarily in that way because there's no way they're getting into the supply chain for there. However, if it is like, hey, if it is a way of we're going to intercept a shipment of iPhones and then do some stuff to it, reseal it, then continue it shipping on the way over there, or just hey, if we can get a hands on this person's phone for exactly 2 hours, we can introduce something in here. That's
I just think it's going to blunt. It's going to blunt a lot of lawmakers from doing anything about this. Like Apple may continue to go down that path, but they're going to have to argue against this problem. I mean, I think that what happened last week changes the narrative, and it'll be very hard for them to argue that Apple or other companies should have to loosen that even further because it's going to be. It's just going to be brought up every time they do. I don't
know if they'll be able to trade on that.
This come up a little bit with all the stuff that right to repair people have been advocating, and I think that the distinction is, and somebody in our members Discord actually said this. Rob Bot, an alert is fine, but don't lock me out of my device. I think that what we absolutely should have, and that Apple should continue down the path of, is verifying that the components in your phone or other device are components that it knows about and understands and that are valid. And that if anything changes or anything is out of what Apple considers to be a blessed piece of work, that Apple warn you about it, right? I think that's legitimate, even if you boot a phone and it says, look, this Face ID sensor is not one we know about. Because then, whether it's an explosive or just spy hardware or whatever it might be, we can't even conceive of some of the ideas there. I think being forewarned is forearmed. There is a point at which, though, if it's Apple saying, and also we control all of the hardware and you can't you replace the part without going through this, that leads to a lot of things, including like huge amounts of e-waste and scrap, where you've got computers that are that part of it broke, but the other parts could be used as parts, and yet they can't because of a block. So it's just walking that line where customers are safe, right, and are warned if something weird is going on with their hardware, but not making it impossible for people to get their things replaced or to reuse Apple parts in other Apple systems and have them get verified and validated.
It could be as simple as secure boot on a Windows PC, where everything is signed, and on boot the device, the operating system says, okay, everything's signed, it's okay. Doesn't prevent you from changing it out, but you're not going to get that secure boot next time.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to be as flat out because the right to repair conversation is becoming a little bit more sophisticated, and acknowledging that, okay, yes, being able to replace a broken screen or a broken camera module, that's really, really nice. And it's nice to have an option to be able to do that outside of the manufacturer. But the modern discussion is saying that, well, but the battery is something different. The battery is an actual consumable. The fact that you have to replace it every 2 or 3 years as opposed to every 10 hours with a flashlight is almost immaterial in the discussion. That's why the EU has specific laws about saying, here is how you have to design your phones. You have to make sure that they actually have 2 levels. That depending on how the EU regards your device, that either it has to be on the broadest level, it has to be able to be replaced by a layman using common tools. On something like an iPhone, I think is what the law actually applies to. It's not as liberal as that, but it basically says that a reasonably skilled person with tools that can be accessible has to be able to get it. There's been some discussion about whether or not this battery change has to do with complying with the EU. iFixit actually talks about this a little bit in their teardown, and who knows, but they don't think it was necessarily done for that reason. But I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing it's really cool come to that, because when you open in this teardown, there is so much evidence of things that have to do with things that are not necessarily what Apple has always had to do. They have iFixit has a whole examination of the heatsink, the cooling system in this phone, and mentioning that like this is something brand new that they've never seen before, and because this thing is going to be, when Apple Intelligence hits, this thing's going to be driven really, really hard, and they're going to need a really, really good, much improved way to get heat off the die if they're going to keep this thing working. So there's a lot of stories being told with this teardown.
They're already saying, I don't know if it's accurate, that sales of the iPhone 16 Pro are lower than the iPhone 16 nothing. Ming-Chi Kuo says that. A few others have been saying it as well. I wonder if that's because people are waiting for Apple Intelligence. You know, I mentioned this on Sunday. I was watching the football game, and Apple's advertising intelligence as if it exists.
Yeah, I still think that. I just really think it's the camera. The camera was an incremental update. It wasn't dramatic.
In the Pro.
15, the 15 in the Pro, the 15 as a 15 owner, I didn't look at this going, oh, I have to jump on the next one. As a 14 owner, I was like, I have to buy the 15. Like it was, it was.
That's kind of what Apple wants. So every other.
As a 15 Pro owner, I absolutely want the 16 Pro because it is a huge update. Because not only is that wide camera 48, not only is there the button, the 5x zoom isn't on the 15 Pro. It's only on the 16 Pro. You got to be Pro Max to get it on the previous generation. And so for me, that all does accumulate, but who knows? Like, I don't even know anymore.
So the 5X is on the Pro Max in the 15, but not the Pro.
And it gets the 16 Pro gets it, right?
And the 16 Pro gets it. Okay.
Right. That same 5X.
So if you wanted that optical 5X
there is an improvement there. And if you're a Pro level user and you're on the 14 or 13 or whatever, then now this year you've got the ability to go to the Pro and not the Pro Max and to get that 5X update that you couldn't get last year. But who knows why some years also some of this data ends up not being true.
Yeah, we don't know.
So we don't know. I think that there is a lot of positivity here, but again, there's not a major new feature in the same sense as there is when there's a design change, right? It looks a lot like the iPhone 12 in this five-year span, but Apple Intelligence may also just be a slow burn, where it's just going to take time, and Apple knows that, and they're starting now, but it's just going to take time for them to get those features out there.
I think the Apple Intelligence marketing has more to do with the stock. It has to do with the consumers. I think that
that does make sense.
We're here. We're doing stuff with intelligence. We're still part of it. I don't think the average user. I think 3 years from now, we'll be using Apple Intelligence all day, every day. We'll have it incredible, but I don't think anyone's banging on the door for that. But I do think that, again, I think that the USB-C update last year, the camera updates last year, I think were dramatic. And I think that it just changes the way the phone operates, made a lot of other things possible. I think this year is less dramatic. I think again, it's a great excuse if you've got a 14 or earlier, but the 15, as a 15 Pro Max user, it's kind of like, I probably will end up getting it, but I didn't feel like I had to. I kind of wanted to wait and let them get through the manufacturing. There's some tap issues potentially, and so on and so forth. Let them get through some of that stuff before I jump on. It didn't feel like I had to have it first day.
I felt like it wasn't a case of, again, assuming that Ming-Chi Kuo's report is accurate. It wasn't so much a case of people are not interested in the Pro so much as Apple did such a good job of upgrading the 16 that a lot of people that would have automatically gone for the Pro or would have talked themselves into going to the Pro have said, well, gosh, all this really cool stuff like this, like the camera control button. I get that. I get all this other stuff. I get Apple Intelligence. Maybe I can save $200 or $300 or put that $200 or $300 into extra $200 or $300, not into the Pro, but into more storage on the iPhone. But this stuff really does matter because the day after Ming-Chi Kuo's report hit, Apple's stock took but went down like 4 points, and most analysts were attributing it to exactly this report. And of course, it bounced back up again. But these things do matter, even if you not necessarily believe that they're true.
What about defects? Are there? So you mentioned the tap button.
In some reports, we don't know if it's really true or not. But anytime you have a new piece of hardware, there's new things that bugs could go wrong. And kinks. So it is
gates. Got to find some gates.
Yeah. So I don't know, but I mean, it would be. It doesn't mean it's not something you can't, if it actually turns out, you take it back and they'll give you another one. The Apple's pretty liberal about that. So it's not that big of a deal. But I think that for me, it was worth enough just hey, let's just see how this settles in before I need to update. Sure.
Yeah, there are some people who have reported, on social media and on Reddit, that it's not their screen at some point just stops responding to taps. So it's definitely and some others are reporting that I can reproduce the steps that caused this to happen. So it's as usual the fact that Look, even if a dozen people are talking about this on social media, that's definitely an outlier. It doesn't mean that it's not a problem. It doesn't mean that Apple doesn't need to fix it, but it doesn't mean it's different. It's different from when the report goes out. Oh my God! If you've got an iPad, if you've got an iPad M4, do not update to iOS 18 because it's bricking some hardware. The reports we're seeing so far basically say that whatever it is, it comes and goes, which indicates that it's not a hardware problem. It's something that Apple will figure out what's interacting with that software, fix it, and introduce a patch that fixes the whole thing.
Anybody getting a black watch?
Yeah, baby.
Oh, look at that.
This is the Series 10, not the black.
Oh, no, that doesn't count. No, sorry, no. What are you doing?
Jet black. This is the first shiny aluminum. I did.
You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the Batman watch.
Let me tell you, the Ultra 2 in black is stunning with the orange highlights, especially. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
But remember, there were rumors. I've got two of these questions now because Mark Gurman is generally a pretty good rumor guy, and every now and then he gets something where he's like, "Oh, this didn't happen." You're like, "Oh, was the rumor wrong?" And it's almost never that. It's that they took something off the plan for some reason. And so, number one is there was supposed to be an actual or like a capacitive action button last year that didn't happen, and I wonder if the camera control is actually just a new version of that they've built, having learned the lessons of the one that didn't work. But two is there was supposed to be a black Ultra 2 last year, that at least in some reports, and they obviously pulled it and they said no. And then here a year later they kind of push it out there, and I it's gorgeous, but you know, it's going to be like original Ultra buyers who go to it, or people who've been Ultra curious all along that are going to go there because, you know, there's nothing new in the Ultra except the color, but it's gorgeous. It is a beautiful, beautiful piece of hardware.
Kind of makes
also
me
the
sad,
Jet Black 10 is really nice because they haven't done a polished aluminum before, and I think there's a good chance that this polished aluminum business might be a preview of them on the iPhone in the future as well.
Polished aluminum iPhone.
Shiny aluminum.
Johnny would have loved that. Johnny's busy, though. You saw that. He's got his own block in San Francisco.
You know, San Francisco real estate's not cheap. You got to work hard.
We're talking about this really good interview that the New York Times had, and oh my God, Steve Jobs and he were absolutely cut from the same cloth, because the story talks about how he bought a building in San Francisco for his business, and then he saw that wow, I'd really love to have there's a parking lot behind the building that I'd love to turn into like an Apple Park sort of little garden. And if it doesn't belong to your building, it belongs to this other building. So he said, okay, I'll buy the other building then. And just so that he could have this little parkway sort of thing, and to smooth things over with the neighbors that are like, oh my God, this is like a runaway, super rich guy that's just buying up everything. He said, oh no, I'll do the design for your building front, and I'll design this for you. We'll do that. And it's like, my goodness, but he knows how to be a rich guy. He's not a crazy rich guy. He's a very, very fun rich guy.
So nice. If you're going to buy a block, Jackson Square is a nice block to buy.
Maybe not before COVID causes all property values to plummet, but still, if you got, I'm sure you can still afford guacamole on the burrito. It's not
guacamole. That's right near Chinatown. You're getting some fine wonton soup there. Let's take a little break. When we come back, we have lots more to talk about besides the iPhone, including why I still don't have iOS 18 on my M4 iPad. Sequoia is out, and the guy, you said, it'll be fun to see how the button works with Halide. Well, not so fast. Halide said they won't.
Permission. They got to ask for permission.
We can't. They did break the unwritten rule. They have no one to blame but themselves. We'll get into it, but
we'll get into it. It's still to come.
I have no pity for these kind of cavalier people.
Please, come on. If you're going to do it right. Andy Anako, GBH Boston, Jason Snell, sixcolors.com, and from officehours.global, it's Alex Lindsay. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Our episode this week brought to you by ZocDoc. I got to tell you, there are some things in life it's okay to, be a total crapshoot, like trying a new type of milk in your coffee, although I frankly think that's going a bridge too far. Maybe that cheap Instagram ad impulse buy. I do that once in a while. Or gas station sushi. They know me so well. But finding the right doctor should not be a total crapshoot. And with ZocDoc, it's not, because you've got more options than you know. ZocDoc. Let me explain what we're talking about here. It's a free app, and then you're seeing the website there on the screen, where you could search and compare high-quality doctors in network if you want, in your insurance network. You could choose the right one for your needs, not just doctors, dentists, chiropractors, MDs, all kinds of medical folk. And then in ZocDoc, click to instantly book an appointment. We're talking about in-network appointments with more than 100,000 healthcare providers across every specialty: mental health, dental health, eye care, skin care, and on and on. In fact, I'm going to a dermatologist. I thought, I need to check this, and ZocDoc made it easy. You filter for doctors who take your insurance, who are located nearby, who are a good fit for the medical need you may have, and who are highly rated by verified patients. That's, by the way, my favorite feature: real reviews from real patients. Verified. Plus, ZocDoc's appointments happen fast, because when you want a doctor, you don't want to wait till next month or next year. Typically, you can get a ZocDoc appointment within 24 to 72 hours of booking, sometimes even same day. So stop rubbing dirt on it, guys. Stop putting off doctor's appointments. Go to ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. My wife tells me this all the time. You know, married men live longer. Why, honey? Because they listen to their wives. Go to the doctor. Okay. ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. They make it easy. ZocDoc.com/MacBreak, and find and instantly book a top-rated doctor today. ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. ZocDoc.com/MacBreak. We thank them so much for their support of MacBreak Weekly. Here's to your good health. Okay, so what did happen with Halide? Are they still? They got turned down for an update because they wanted to use the camera.
Yeah, exactly. They wanted to use the camera, and a random reviewer, as they put it, said, you need to change your description of asking for camera permissions. And it was like, we need to use the camera because it's literally a camera app.
Yeah.
However, I want to say their response was amazing, which is they submitted and had accepted, although they're not going to ship with it. They rewrote the whole thing in iambic pentameter. So now it says, to access what the lens alone can see, a camera app must ask for leave from thee. It seeks permission, clear and full, to claim to capture light and frame the world by name. Without this grant, it cannot work its art. For privacy and safety play a part. To safeguard all that's seen within its gaze, the law requires consent in rightful ways. Thus, with permission, pictures can unfold. But first, your trust is sought before control.
Oh, who could say no to that?
I mean,
who is a DM in their D&D group? Because that sounds like, and now the bod you must come across. Yeah,
It actually sounds like something an AI could do. To be
yeah, probably so.
If they wasted,
you're going to see a lot more of that
time on it anyway. Yeah. So it used to the permission text used to be the camera will be used to take photographs. They left off the duh. And what makes it like quadruply galling is that this is exactly the thing that like the Apple the App Store process is famous for. It was the exact same thing for 7 years, and suddenly it got up somebody's nose at Apple in the review process, and all of a sudden now they can't update, which is not like an annoyance because. Especially an app like Halide, you actually are timing things out to make sure that this is they might have chosen this day because this is the day we're prepared to give support for a lot more people who are going to be installing a brand new version of it, who are going to be asking questions about how the camera button works. It's like, it is not just a petty annoyance. It is like, great. So now you basically screwed up our timing. It's better that at least Halide is already like a classic iPhone app. What if you're a brand new app that, hey, I decided to quit my job and put myself in debt and go for 6 months to a year to build this business, and now finally income is going to start to come back, and thank God, because I planned this out so that really I can't go for another month without any sort of income, and suddenly, oh, by the way, we're going to tie you up for 6 weeks because a simple piece of text that is absolutely innocuous, you're going to have to keep playing charades to figure out before Apple like actually gives you permission to actually upload it that way. It's just it's unnecessary, and it's a problem that I think Apple should be trying harder to fix.
Yeah. Misaligned priorities too, where it's like there are so many things happening on the App Store that need more attention. Making developers jump through ridiculous hoops is not one of them.
And hey, and just as an aside, Halide is like a darling of Apple. Like Halide was actually, I think, mentioned or even promoted during the rollout. And so if you think that this is just because this like independent developers who like aren't very experienced and don't know how to play the game, if Halide is running into this problem, nobody is safe from this, and that's shocking.
Well, is it still off the store?
I mean, it's never been off. It's just an update.
Oh, the update.
Update was rejected, and then I think the iambic pentameter, and there was one that was a limerick. That one got approved, which they're not going to release. They're actually going to have good, clear, more new rewritten whatevers. But it's just so dumb. Yeah. Unnecessary.
There are other issues I've been seeing. According to one Redditor, Firefox doesn't work after you upgrade to a Sequoia. I haven't tried that. Is that true or no?
Let's find somebody who uses Firefox.
I was going to say, all 10 people are at up and over. No, Firefox.
Come on, let's not knock Firefox.
It's great to have Firefox there, and Firefox is a great browser. I think that it is not as popular now as Chrome and
unfortunately,
I don't know why. Because I used to use all of them fairly equally, and I didn't. When I saw that article, I was thinking, when was the last time I opened Firefox? And I just realized it's been a long time.
Yeah. It looks like it's if you've got firewall turned on, it was it was filtering Firefox traffic, and you can tell it to not do that or turn it off.
Yeah. Well, and I think that you're going to keep on seeing Apple continually. This every update is going to be a slightly tighter security level, every year. For all the OSs, you'll just keep seeing Apple just slowly keep on turning that crank.
Mm-hmm.
What besides Halide? What other camera apps use the camera control button?
I mean, any app that is a camera app can use it. It's just a matter of getting the update. So Obscura is one.
How others been nice.
I don't know if there's an update yet. Well, in the event, they showed Snapchat using it, right? And that's an example of an app that uses the camera.
Do they all use it the same though? Or is I know you can set it so that it will open a different app.
Right. The click has to be taking a picture, and then you can do custom. They can do custom controls. So they showed in the video that Snap could let you choose who you were sending the photo to using those controls. So that's where the API is connected.
Yeah, that's neat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
it's a great idea.
There are also people reporting that Sequoia is breaking a lot of cybersecurity tools. I'm scrolling down here. CrowdStrike, SentinelOne, Microsoft.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So don't know what's so essentially another reason like not to update day one until you're sure that the software that you absolutely rely on absolutely works. But yeah, a lot of people. It's like I guess CrowdStrike must be pleased to be able to blame something on someone else for a change. A little distraction tactic.
Well, what seems likely is that Apple put in something that makes CrowdStrike safer.
Maybe
and that broke CrowdStrike. Whoops. Yeah. No kernel access. How are we going to do our jobs? Come on, man. Let's see. What else? Is there any? So we got iOS 18. Why did I not get it on my M4 iPad? Why am I still on 17?
Yeah, we mentioned that briefly last time. It was bricking some, but not most, but some, and enough that they basically said we're going to stop the rollout on M4 iPad Pro just in case this is an issue, and that they can do that, right? They can just literally stop the rollout and say no updates for you yet.
Yeah, and apparently was so bad, like that if your iPad has been affected by this, that it only happens during installation. So if you've already updated and your iPad is working fine, you have nothing to worry about. It's just a problem that happens during updating the OS. But apparently, if this bug strikes during the update. Some people who have been affected by this when they went to the Genius Bar, no, we have to send this to Cupertino to have them.
Wow.
I assume use special Cupertino Ninja tools to basically open the patient and physically re-ROM very low level stuff that can't be done outside of the spaceship campus.
So they haven't fixed it though. I still
they're still working on it. Mac Rumors I think broke the story. I think it broke an hour before we ended the show last week, which is why we just had to talk about it a bit at the end.
Well, I'm sitting here. Here's my M2 still on 17.7, and no updates available to it. Not that I guess I don't really care, but that seems like they should have fixed it.
They should fix it. They should fix it by October, by 18.1 for sure.
All right, let's talk about October. We're done with okay, so you got a new iPhone. Big deal. New watches. Big deal. What have you done for me lately?
Can we mention one cool thing that 95 Mac turned up? Apparently, now, like iPhone, a bad iPhone that needs like a new firmware, now it can actually get it wirelessly from a nearby iPad or iPhone. So it can basically give the kiss of life to another device. So before this, you had to dock it to a Mac or PC to make that happen. But now it will wirelessly. Apparently, it's something they found, not something they were able to trigger. But apparently now, like you can reach, if you have another device within wireless proximity to it, it can actually copy like the firmware files it needs from that device and hopefully get you back going again without having to climb down off of Yosemite and find an Apple store.
That's actually really cool.
That's pretty cool.
Great idea. Yeah. What do you call it? The breath of life?
It seems, well, again, you don't have to put them together like they're kissing or like they're giving mouth to mouth resuscitation. But you
could
if you wanna,
if it makes you feel better.
Yeah.
Let's see. What are we going to see next month? Are we going to see new iPads? Are we going to see new Macs, M4 Macs?
We sure hope we're seeing Mac Minis, little Mac Minis, tiny little Mac Minis,
Apple
like
TV sized Mac Minis.
Yeah, MacBook Pro. Well, I think what we're going to get is the M4 will come in more varieties, right? So it'll be the first M4 Max, but there'll also be at least an M4 Pro and maybe an M4 Max. And so you'll get MacBook Pro update plus that Mac Mini update. Sounds like MacBook Air is not going to come until next year because they just did the M3 model. And then, iPad. That's the question. iPad Mini is kicking out there. So there's some stuff. I mean, whether there will be a video event or whether it will be one of these. Last year they did a video event, their spooky Halloween event, if you remember that. maybe they would do that again. It sort of depends on how much there is and how big a deal they want to make of it. But MacBook Pros, make them a lot of money. So I think that would be the big thing. And I am, like Alex, very excited about that potential smaller.
Can't have too many Mac Minis.
Yeah, big fan.
I was thinking, I thought, that's great. It's a chance to replace for thousands of dollars all the Mac Minis that are running this studio. And then I don't really need to. I've got an 8 gigabytes of RAM and an M1 Mac that's running part of it. The other one's 16 gigs on an M1 Mac. It's fine. I don't need a new one.
Yep.
That's the hard part. I think that it's one of the hard things for both the iPads and the Mac Minis is that they don't get the same upgrade speed because they're so good when they come out. Especially the big jump for the Mac Minis was when the M1 hit. I mean, most of the Mac Minis that I sit here are just the M1s doing what they need to do. We were just using them yesterday. I was doing an event and we were running we have a bunch of Mac Minis, but running scopes, audio scopes and video scopes, and they all run perfectly, on an 8 gig, M1, and they're perfectly smooth and everything works. And I think that's the real challenge is that same thing with iPads. I mean, my kids just stopped using the iPad Pros that were the original iPad Pros.
Wow.
And now I'm looking at getting them new ones, but it lasted, I don't know how many years, 8 years, something like that.
Well, we do have 12 Macs added to the vintage and obsolete products list. Not that this matters, but maybe it's a way of nudging you a little bit. The MacBook Air Retina from 2018. 2018! That's hardly old at all. MacBook Pro 13 from 17 and 18. They're vintage. Yeah. Obsolete, even something as recent as the 2016 MacBook 12-inch.
Yeah, I mean it's a problem not getting security updates because you never know what could come around the bend. But it's still plenty useful, and I have a couple of older machines that are like running things that don't necessarily have to be run directly. Like I've got a media server running on one of them. I've got one acting as a file server for other things. So they're still plenty useful. And hey, Sometimes it's just time to learn Linux.
Yeah.
You can get, if you want a modern desktop and some frustrations, and whether they got the Wi-Fi problems almost completely sorted out after 20, 30 years, don't worry about that.
These are all, we should point out, Intels. So
yeah,
they should have probably been considered vintage earlier than this. Vintage means 5 years have passed since the company stopped distributing it for sale. You can still get repairs for another 2 years as long as Apple has parts available. Obsolete means more than 7 years have passed, and you typically can't get those replaced or repaired, rather. You might be able to get battery replacements, but that's about it. Time to think about something new.
Yeah.
That Retina 5K iMac 27-inch, that was a nice piece of gear.
Yeah.
It hasn't been replaced by anything else.
Be nice to use it as a display.
Yeah.
There's one thing that I couldn't wait for Alex to see. There was a bunch of updates to iWork, and okay, I don't know who's really using iWork still, except for Keynote. However, most of the updates that they made are basically, hey, we've got a new Apple Pencil, so we'll have the double tap feature you squeeze the Apple Pencil switch tools. Alex, if you have the Apple Watch, now the new version of Keynote will take the double tap gesture on your wrist and use it as a next slide control.
Ooh,
oh, really?
You don't have to. Yeah. Just double tap double tap your fingers together, and it will go to the next slide.
If you do it just right, it could look like a chef's kiss.
I'll have to check it out. I all I did is I looked for it, and I was, hoping for a bunch of features, and what I saw was HDR, and I was like, well, I don't know when I need HDR. I was like, I don't know, I love HDR. I do a lot of stuff with it. A presentation in HDR, I was like,
blacks have never been deeper.
If that's the only if I was only going to get one new big feature out of Keynote, HDR was not on the top.
If you do a lot of video or photo embeds where you want those to be in HDR, I think that would be the example, right? Where you're presenting.
But most projectors aren't going to.
And I have to admit that
anyway, right?
That's the hard part, is that what are you showing it on that would be able to do that? So you're handing it to a bunch of stuff that most projectors aren't going to be able to do it. Most TVs in conference rooms aren't going to be able to do it. So it's a kind of a very limited. If you are sending that out to somebody else and they're opening it up, it might be impressive if they're all Apple users. I think it's something that, in Cupertino, I'm sure it's really popular because everybody's got monitors and things that all look that it all pops out for. But it was an interesting update there. I will say I use all of the iWork products pretty heavily. So I prefer numbers. I do all my bids in numbers. They look nicer. They just look nicer than everybody else's bids, and I can make them. Someone asked me, I sent them a bid one time and they asked me what app I used to do what tool do you use to do these bids? And I was like, numbers, because I can have white space and I can put things on it. I can have little graphs and I can have, it just looks way better than Excel, so I can make things look, I'm not trying to do massive calculations, in it that you might want to use Excel for. If you're doing anything less than really heavy finance work, like I'm bordering on ERP, then I think numbers looks nicer, works fast. It's way faster than Excel or Sheets. Now, a lot of times I build things in numbers and then I put them in Sheets so other people can interact with them. But but it's so much easier and faster. And the problem is you get used to white space on numbers and you don't want to go back. And Pages is just such a nice way to make everything. I do all my, if I have to write a report, it looks so much nicer in Pages. I just grab some template, I throw it in. It's kind of like Canva. I go grab a template and I update it, and it immediately looks like I designed it. It doesn't look like a stupid Word doc, that I just kind of cobbled together. So I think that a lot of the tools are still pretty pretty useful.
And they're free apps. I wasn't denigrating them. It's just that they went from they're really, really old apps, or rather they're started as part of iLife, I think, or iWork, the iWork suite. And they started so long ago that part of the purpose for it was that, okay, we don't have work and education apps that show off why a Mac is better than a Windows product and why macOS is better than Windows. So let's create our own that really shows off what this thing can do and makes people happy that they bought themselves an iMac or that their schools upgraded to iMacs. And a lot of the reason for it to exist is now different now. But no, you're absolutely right. They really are. I use Keynote as my presentation app because I'm totally with you. It's like such a fun app to like present stuff in. And I use Pages whenever I just need to. I have two apps that I use whenever I need to like do a one-page like sign or something like that. And one of them is Graphic, which is an actual like MacDraw type app. But I'm surprised at how many times I will just use Pages, because it's not like I have to like set margins, set center. It's like, no, please put this thing here on the page. It's like, okay. And I'll put this thing right here on the page next to it. Okay, I don't care that's not in line with anything else. That's fine.
You know, when you do the thing that when you do live streams, a lot of times we've got a bunch of slates. You know, we'll be right back if something goes wrong, starting soon. Thank you for watching. These are all, you know, for single use or whatever. And one client years ago, maybe a decade ago, sent it to me, and I realized they just sent me the Keynote document. I realized they're building all those slides, and I've been building them in Photoshop and everything else. And they were building all these slides in Keynote, and ever since then, all of my slides are built there. And what's interesting is that because we had another client that saw me do that, and then they started sending me stuff in PowerPoint, and I kept on looking at going, it's not right. I don't understand. And now PowerPoint's gotten better. So in the last two versions, they've improved this. But it was a weird thing in Keynote that the kerning, the letter spacing between the letters, and the anti-aliasing in Keynote was dramatically better than PowerPoint. And it was like this weird, like you can't see it until you see. I would take exactly the same slide and look at it, and the Keynote one looked better. You know, and it was just kind of one of those things that you know, but that's the kind of weird Apple stuff that Apple does. You know, they're paying attention to some stuff that people aren't paying attention to. And so I do think that if I was in an all Mac environment, I would probably use a lot more of Pages specifically, in the sense that I'd use more video, I'd use more 3D models. I do, you know, like when I do site surveys, if you're on an iPhone, and I know you're on an iPhone, and I do a site survey, I take Polycam out and I go like this, and I go around and I capture the space, and then I just text you I just a couple of days ago I texted a friend, like, here's the space I'm looking at, take a look at it, and I send them a scan of that space that I did. It took me 5 minutes to create it, and I send it to them. They open it up on their iPhone, and boom, and I can take that and throw it into into something like Keynote. The problem really is that what I was hoping to see were two things. I mean, I put it, you put the little feedback thing in, and then you hope that somehow the lottery is going to get it. But I was like, I really need a countdown clock. I just need to be able to design countdown clocks. I keep on asking every team, like every feedback thing is like, someone give me a countdown clock, because I make them from scratch. The other thing is the 3D tools inside of all the Apple tools. They have USDZ, but the 3D tools inside of Keynote, it's exciting that I can do it. It's not exciting that they're not very good. It's like, it's as a 3D artist, you're like, they're really quirky, and it doesn't really have a sense of space, of a volume, of a sense of volume where all the 3D objects live in their own space and don't live in each other's space. And so you're like, I could build something much, as someone who does 3D, I'm sure for someone who doesn't do 3D, it works great. As someone who does 3D, you're kind of like, oh, you're so close. You're so close to doing something amazing. And maybe they'll get there. But I was hoping to see more updates in that area than what was.
I mean, I work updates happen when they happen. There's small teams working on them. They do keep advancing them. The big change was when they brought them to iOS and iPad, especially, and that code kind of went back to the Mac over time, so that they're pretty much in sync now. But I want to praise them as well. I think that while they were originally a little more of a competitive move, as Andy said, I think that today the purpose they serve is that if you buy a Mac, an iPad, an iPhone out of the box, there's an Office suite there, right?
And it's a really nice one.
And it's good. It's got a lot of advantages, but you don't have to buy anything extra. You can go to Google if you want. You can go to Microsoft if you want. That's fine. But if somebody sends you, this was always a problem back in the old days with the Mac. If somebody sends you a file, you can just open it, right? If it's an Excel file, it'll open in Numbers and you can use it. Or you're like, I need a spreadsheet. You don't have to go buy one. You can just, they're there, and they're all good. I like Numbers. I think it's really good. I always loved Keynote and preferred it to PowerPoint, but like there are these small teams at Apple, and they're kind of like out of sync with the rest of the OS people. They're just off doing their own thing, but they keep updating them, and those are good little apps.
God bless
and to be fair, I have not had Word on my main computer for 2 decades.
Same.
Not
that long. Not since I stopped writing books have I had like a Word on my
I use devices. So when I say that I wanted to see something, I wanted to see something really really esoteric, I would say, for me. But there are so many amazing things that, I mean, just little things like I was talking to someone, they were trying to figure out how to do lower thirds. And I was like, you can save out of Keynote. You can save a Apple ProRes 444 file. You can literally do an animation in Keynote and just render it out and load it into your playout system, and it's gonna do a perfect lower third. And that was kind of dumbfounding. And when I talk to people about like teachers, when I talk to teachers about they're like, well, I don't know how to get into video. I was doing a talk a couple weeks ago about this, and I was like, just Keynote. That's all you need. You just need Keynote.
Yeah.
Like you can make all the, I've done things where I've laid out in Keynote, this is what I'm going to do for your animation. Like I had someone like a 3-minute thing, put it all together in Keynote. And he's like, okay, that's great. How do you bill me? And I'm like, no. That was the presentation. we're still going to use motion and actually make a whole thing, And he's like, this is great. I don't think, and he literally didn't let me go any further. He was just like, well, how much do I pay for that? Because that's all I wanted.
This is really a testament to the maturity of the industry and of software in general. Yeah. It used to be you'd get a computer and then you'd get VisiCalc. Because you had to have a spreadsheet, and you'd get Office or Word or something because you had to have a word processor, and everybody kind of agreed on the same handful of tools. It's really fragmented now. It's a mature industry. And what's scary, I think, for some people is hearing what you just said, Alex, saying, wait a minute, I might have a tool on my Mac right now that I could do something that I've been trying to figure out how to do for years, and I just didn't know it. There's so much diversity, so much power now in the software that's available to us. It's hard to know everything that's out there.
Yeah, and I think that Apple, could where I would grow Keynote, for instance, is looking at Canva. Because my wife uses Canva, and I was like, why do you use Canva?
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people, what you just described, templates. A lot of people just do on the web. Word processing, they use a CMS or the Google Docs.
Well, it's and
spreadsheets.
For them
they use Google Sheets. I mean, the people are doing everything on the web now.
It is. It's just that
it's not as good.
It's not as good. Like the thing is that for the kind of stuff that I'm using
good enough for a lot of people.
I'm asking for a lot of money, and so
you're a pro. That's the difference between me, a hammer, and a hook that I can hang a painting on the wall, and a professional contractor.
Well, but right? I think that people underestimate that too. So people will put together I do. Bids are very competitive because what I sell is about $50,000 a unit, and so the thing is that. It's very competitive. And I'm always amazed at people who will throw something together in an Excel sheet or do some kind of basic whatever, and that's their bid. And in Keynote, you feel like you have like a superpower where you have this great tool that you can sit there and throw together illustrations of exactly, and especially when you start to, the thing that I've really gotten into is I have lots and lots of my own shapes. And so you can bring in EPSs, but the big thing is being able to convert the SVGs, which is a little quirky in Keynote, but being able to convert SVGs into shapes means that they're just there all the time. You can fill them with their own colors. You can do all the things that you need to do. And I don't know, bringing those in and having those all available means that you can throw together presentations that are very specific to what you do, whether it's in documents and pages or whatever. And it's super powerful. And it's just the tools make it easy to look good. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
Is 100%. That you look professional without having to know a lot about how to be professional at it,
Yeah. I mean, it's what I loved about Keynote is that the simple things are trivial to do and difficult things are accessible to do. And it's like I never had a standard template for any of the talks that I do, because every time I do something brand new, it's like I'm looking at what I'm setting up and say, what if we had a horizontal line that as part of every slide transition, it moves from one place to another, depending on whether if there's a headline, then it'll be underscoring the headline. If there's no headline, it'll just be like sort of waiting at the bottom and overscoring like my email address. And that's not the sort of thing that I would have spent a day doing. But if I can just simply put, as you say, just put that line there, go to the next slide, move the line to where you want it to go, and say, hi, please do this transition for me, and it just automatically happens. Sure, definitely do that.
Well, by the way, if you're an educator, and even if you're not an educator, you call yourself an educator, get into the Apple's education page. They do these seminars about how to use these tools that are next level. And I've gotten into a couple of them. Every single time I go, there's something they learn. Like there was one time that, if you open up your iPad and grab onto the object with your pencil, you can just animate it on the screen. And I was like, what?
Yeah. Well, that's the miraculous thing about the iWork suite. I mean, God, Google, they don't have a bunch of dummies working there. But the difference between using any of their workspace apps in a browser window, on a laptop or on a desktop, and any of their mobile apps is stark. It can give you a sort of almost, you can sort of edit something. Maybe you can jot down a few ideas, but you don't get the full experience. The idea that, God, I can do the number of times the number of times I happen to have had an iPhone in my pocket and I'm waiting for my bags to appear, and I can go through my slides and not just like do reorder slides, but actually I want a new slide here and I want to create this trend. That it's almost feature parity between the phone, the tablet, and the desktop. That's just remarkable. I don't know of any other Office suite or productivity suite like that is that. No compromises, will give you the same experience no matter what device you're using.
Yeah, Microsoft's getting there, but we don't talk enough about how awful Google's iOS apps are. Right. They're so bad. I mean, and I'm a big Google Sheets fan, and I do a lot of stuff in Google Docs. And then I'm on my iPad, and I'm like,
it's bad on the iPad.
Yeah. Don't make me do it. It's so bad.
I will say I use Sheets very heavily, but I use Sheets heavily because I have to. We're going to put up something that everyone's got to edit. And, I don't think that the iWork stuff has ever really gotten that to work as well as I like it to work. If you're used to Google Sheets or you're used to Google Docs, that shared environment still works better than what Apple does 100%. By a lot,
Right, for sure.
So
that is an important feature.
Or Microsoft, for that matter.
And I think it's the nature of the shared environment that makes it harder for them to be good at some of these things. And also, to your point, with the iOS stuff, it doesn't feel like they take the touch screen seriously. Like it's just, and so it's just, so it is very hard to use. But so you think about everything in stages. Like if I really want it to look good, I'm going to use Keynote. If I want to be collaborative, I use Google Docs. And it's just, there's not any one solution yet.
The truth is that part of Google views the world through a browser window.
Yeah.
Which is fine. They're really
Google
good at it.
The world. I feel like Google views the world.
We could argue that the all of Google, other than maybe some parts of Android, really just views the world as a web browser window.
Right.
And that is fine, right? Like Google, those are great apps in a web browser. They're amazing.
Yeah.
But on the web browser on an iPad or an iPhone, they're not as good as they are on the desktop.
Well,
and then you build those apps, and the apps are just also not good.
I think the hard part is that browsers, they make it really easy. It's hard to make it good, or great. I mean, you can make it good. In the same way, if you look at Google Meet, Google Meet is very serviceable, but it's not Zoom. Zoom is a native app written natively. They're not using any of that React Native insanity that's where dreams go to die. And so they write, Zoom is writing custom code for every platform. And that's why it runs so smoothly. And it can be feature rich. You can make it run smoothly, like Meet runs smoothly. It's just that it's very limited because it's stuck in a browser, and it has a very limited way of touching the world.
Yeah. To be fair, Google is. I'm sorry. I'll be the. There's been a great conversation. I'll wrap it up quick.
45 minutes on iWork is good, but
exactly. It's the most anyone's talked about iWork in a long time. Before we leave the topic, it's not that necessarily that Google Workspace is bad. It's just that they're maximizing a different set of variables than Apple is. What Google is trying to do is making sure that one document is going to be the same no matter where you go and no matter what device you're using it on, whether you're using it on a $5,000 workstation or a $100 phone. When I prepare my notes and my briefing papers and whatever for Boston Public Radio, like the thing that I have in front of me during radio is a Google Doc, because I absolutely have to make sure that whatever it is I'm creating for myself at home or on the train is exactly what's going to be there on my iPad when we start talking about it, because I can't have one of those things where, why aren't you synced? Do I have to hit a sync function? No, that always works and it's always perfect. So just maximizing different variables.
People ask, why does Leo interrupt us? Like why? Like exactly. I get every once in a while on Twitter. This is why Leo interrupts us, because if you don't interrupt us, we're capable of talking about iWork for an hour or 2 hours or possibly the entire show. But when you're wondering, like, why?
If you work on iWork at Apple, we love you. You do a great product. We love you very much.
Yeah.
People don't say that.
There you go, Leo. This is your chance. We took a pause there for a second, and then
quick, while Andy's sipping Dr. Pepper, leap in.
How did you handle that last week, Jason? Did you just interrupt, or what did you do?
I mean, I did a lot of attempts when it was like, oh, it's been 30 minutes and you should do an ad now.
You should see Andy and I at dinner.
What people don't know, if you're not in the
hours
club,
of
you're
this.
missing a fun thing that happens in the Club Twit Discord, which is when we get onto a topic like this, then sometimes the other hosts, Jason Snell's had a fairly long conversation about a Samsung monitor that he recommends.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're doing a whole other show in the Discord.
There's a whole other show
This
in
is
the
why
Discord.
you should be a member, because we are doing several other shows simultaneously with this one.
Twice the
But
content.
I'll tell you though, Leah, when this happens, if there's two things, and you know this better than anyone. If they're going off, you're like, well, I don't even need to do it. Just wind them up and watch them go, and that's great. When you need to do an ad break, though, that's when I start. Because now that we've got our Zoom setup that we use now, you can always see. Yeah,
I should do this, right? I should point to this.
So you give them the sign. You're like, we need to stop.
We're 9 minutes late for the ad break.
Can I say,
right?
Jason, that your technique of getting one of those like little party guns that shoots off like dollar bills into the camera, like wasn't on the microphone, but we could definitely see it. We knew that we could probably take.
That's right.
Only another 5 or 10 minutes to wind things up.
That's right.
This is why
you're watching. The truth is, I don't have any ads, so it's okay. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Jason Snell, Andy Anako, Alex Lindsay, and some guy. By the way, I'm going to have to work on my shot now, I'm thinking, Alex, because my head is smaller than all of your heads.
It
Look at that.
depends.
I look like a little tiny pinhead. Would you do that, please? Thank you, Jason. Everybody back up just a little. Either that or I'll have to get closer. I have a longer lens. I might have to put in a longer lens. Next time we talk about iWork, let's tell me.
Okay,
and I'll
we'll
put
meet
the
back
longer
here.
lens in.
Talk about iWork.
Apple's new iOS upgrade doesn't fix the green bubble problem. Jeffrey Fowler, Shira Ovid, writing in the Washington Post.
Oh, brother.
Well, what
Oh,
it sounds
brother.
like you have strong
This is the
feelings about
smallest.
that,
This
Jason.
is the smallest.
No,
bio
I mean,
that
tell-
could
share
find.
that with us.
I didn't read this story. I'm just saying, is the green bubble problem that the bubbles are green? Because
No, they're worried about security, actually. They're
Okay,
saying
well, that's better.
RCS does
Yes.
it. So you might think, oh, everything is encrypted, but it's not if you're talking to Android.
I mean, why would you think that when the bubbles are green, right? That's the whole point, is that the bubbles are green, and it's very subtle. Apple, when they announced that they were going to support RCS, said that they were going to work with the RCS organization that
GSMA,
controls the standard to work on an encrypted system. And I think there was some news about that in the last few weeks that they're
yes,
still
they announced
talking
they're going
about.
to do it. Yeah.
That they're going to do it. So it will be encrypted at some point. And when that happens, I would imagine Apple will put some sort of symbol somewhere to indicate the difference between encrypted and non-encrypted communications. But, it's a green bubble. It wasn't secure before, and it's still not. So from an Apple perspective, unless you're looking at that little tiny gray text in an empty text field that says text message RCS, you're not, I mean, the world kind of hasn't changed on that level.
But it's still an improvement. As early as December, the fellow at Google who on the Android team who's responsible for this area was speaking at a conference and said that no, they're already like actively working with Apple to develop a way to get end-to-end encryption between iMessage, RCS on an iPhone and RCS on Android. Google had already standardized an RCS like a long time ago across Android. The thing that Apple could have done, but okay, for perfectly reasonable reasons, decided not to do, is that if a carrier uses Google's own RCS service, they have their own end-to-end encryption scheme. Apple simply decided that no, we don't want to support that. They could have done it right out of the gate if they had. I don't think that's a scandal, but I do believe Apple and Google and the GSMA, when they say that they're working together to enhance RCS Universal to include end-to-end encryption. RCS Universal always had that capability. The specification has always said if you want to extend it this way, it allows extensions that way. Again, that's how Google does end-to-end encryption over RCS. But it means that we're going to get a much better RCS for everybody just by the fact that all these groups are going to work together. So I'm glad that I no longer have to dog Apple for what I still think was just petty, petulant, tacky opposition to RCS just because, hey, we want to keep we're going to nerf iMessage and the Messages app just to make sure we don't make Android messaging look good. And in the meantime, every grandma on an Android phone that received a beautiful picture of the grandkids got it at low resolution, looking kind of terrible when they could have gotten something that was worthy of the sofa table behind in the living room. And that's all on Apple. At least now, grandma now gets a good copy of that photo from.
Yeah, but grandma should not assume that she's encrypted if
Right.
she's going from Apple to an Android device.
Be careful with those state secrets, grandma. But yeah,
grandma might be working for the NSA. I'm sure there are some NSA grandmas.
Yeah, well, we heard that she got run over by a reindeer, but that was just a cover.
It was
she
a cover.
faked her own death.
That was
to
protection
go
operation,
undercover, and that's it. I had a text thread with a friend of mine who uses Android, and I did like a tap back reaction because I thought, you know what?
Yeah.
We're in a new world now. I can just send him a tap back reaction. He's going to get it.
It's pretty cool.
We have a family etiquette question that I'd like to bounce off of you guys. How long should I wait and still see in the family group chat like MMS message without before it's okay to say, okay, ladies, you have to update to iOS 18. You have to update for a lot of reasons that are going to be good for you, but I've been waiting for this for a long, long time. And I think the number of times I helped you people move, the number of times that I fixed your bathrooms with Dad coming over your terrible early apartments, I deserve it.
While trying to work on our
communication issues.
Exactly.
But things have really changed between us. I finally switched to RCS.
This is a made by Google. I don't know why you're not showing this.
Which means
is it me? Oh, it's me. Now I'm showing it.
So much better.
This is a made by Google.
And now we can send each other high quality
an iPhone and a Pixel phone on
the
a
cat memes.
What we're trying to say
therapist's
is
seat.
It's a terrible, terrible ad.
Oh, I like it. I like they have. Have you seen? It's part of their. They have a sequence of ads called Best Phones Forever. That yes, it's there to make sure people know that Android phones are really good, and that in some cases they can do things that Google feels is better than the iPhone. But it really is not. Oh wow, it's not. I'm a Mac. I'm a PC. Aren't you horrible? Oh, I'm cool. I'm wonderful.
Yeah, at least
it's more like,
that.
hey, we're friends, and sometimes we don't work together quite well. We'd like to. I actually had to make a note of this because there was during the Olympics there was another ad in the Best Phones Forever sequence that was, again, the iPhone and the iPhone 15 and the Pixel 9, I think, during the Olympics, just like cautiously like walking together to the end of like the high diving platform and then just like looking over together and then turning to each other and said, nope, and then back together. Because that's not promoting Android so much as like promoting the pleasant relationship between these two phones. And it's like, if these two pieces of overly hyped, overly marketed commercial hardware can get together, can all the nations of the world join hands and have a Coke?
Actually, Wear OS watches may have a leg up over the Apple Watch because Massimo, the company that is suing Apple over blood oximeter, has partnered with Google to create Wear OS reference hardware, which means that probably they're licensing their blood oximeter technology to the Pixel Watch. Yeah, I still have it in my Apple Watch, though, right? It's just you can't get a new one with it.
If you bought in the US.
Right. If they sold you an Apple Watch with that feature, they're not going to take it out. But from now on, any new watch sold inside the United States, as Jason said, the United States import board basically agreed with Massimo that the blood oximeter component in Apple Watches infringes on Massimo's patents, and so you cannot import Apple Watches into the United States until this is settled or until the patent expires or whatever. And yeah, Massimo's very proud of this. They had on a Monday they announced this partnership with Google. The next day they announced that this partnership also includes Qualcomm. So they're going to be this company that's been around since like I think the 1980s. They started off using creating medical sensor technology. Non-invasive medical technology for use in hospitals, and they've been around for like 20 years now. I don't know if they're still going to be producing their own smartwatch, but them bringing all these healthcare sensors with Qualcomm bringing what they hope to be finally mobile sensors with Google that now seems to have gotten their act together in terms of the hardware. I mean, with the state of Wear OS and the state of Wear OS watches, hopefully they can start to reach parity with the Apple Watch. I don't know if they'll be able to exceed it, but the idea of them having access to this blood oxygen sensor, blood oximeter technology that Apple is now locked out of, that could be significant. But it's going to be a couple of years until we see this actually translate into a real product.
Which brings us to the Vision Pro segment. Which brings us to
what do you know? It's time to talk the Vision Pro.
Seamless.
I could actually get that on one of my buttons here and probably save you some trouble, John Ashley, but thank you.
Put it on a cart.
Is there any? I know what the big Vision Pro story is. Tomorrow, Meta is going to have its Meta Connect keynote. We're going to cover that live, 10 a.m. Pacific. And I believe Meta will announce some interesting products, none of which will be available, by the way. But, you know, they got some AR glasses, supposedly, that they're going to be showing off. Whether they actually will ever be available is another matter entirely.
Well, it's a huge successful product. They also had an interesting development where I can't remember the name of the company. It's a French-Italian international conglomerate that owns every single eyeglass brand in the entire world, including Ray-Ban. Luxottica. But now there's another like company integration in front of it. So the reason why that the Ray-Bans, Facebook Ray-Ban Meta specs are so popular is that they look like Ray-Bans because they are actual Ray-Bans because of their one. Yeah. So I think last week, the week before, they announced a long-term like partnership with Luxottica. So one of the biggest problems to solve in these kind of wearables is make something that doesn't make you look like a dork. Make something that looks like something that people would actually be walking around the street and they'd be happy to be seen in. And so the fact that they have the ability, they have the connection to all this manufacturing and all this design and all these existing popular brands like Oakley's that might have Meta technology built into it. That I think is a really big leap up for this type of product. And it's going to be interesting to see the developments tomorrow. Like for a couple of years, we had been before the Vision Pro came out. We'd all been talking about what kind of effect is this going to have on the market. It's probably going to jumpstart like a new interest in VR and AR and people who don't want an Apple. Like there'll be like new people coming into the pond. And as of now, the big effect that they've had is to convince or reassure Meta that they don't have to make a $3,000 pair of VR goggles. They can, because Apple made one, and the only people who cared were Apple fans and enthusiasts. They can basically make really good $1,000 goggles or really good $800 goggles and proceed on that path and still work well. And once again, the biggest success, probably across the board in terms of getting this integrated into regular people are those Ray-Ban specs, where all it is really good ear hook mounted transducive speakers, decent cameras, the ability to speak to an AI that's on your phone and get inputs from the cameras and a microphone. That's in 2024, you can do that really, really well, and that's going to be the enhanced experience. So it's going to be exciting to see what they do and how accessible all this stuff is going to be.
We'll be watching tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 1700 UTC, right before Windows Weekly. Micah Sargent and I will live stream that Facebook Connect keynote just to see what they're up to, just to see. Security issue was resolved. Apple's Vision Pro eye tracking is so good, it exposed what people are typing. Researchers used eye tracking to work out the passwords and pins people were typing with their avatars. Apple has since fixed this. But in a way, this is like a little humble brag, right? Look what we could do. The exploit is called Gazeploit. Or is it Gazeploit? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, the fact that they could do it through your avatar was pretty. That is. I mean, you're right. That is a pretty good, just compliment to how good the eye tracking technology is. That you can steal passwords from your fake cartoon self.
Yes. The idea is while you were typing a password, using
were
your
looking at it.
eyes
Yeah.
while you were on a call where they're using your avatar, your persona, I guess they call it digital persona. They were able to, from that, back out what you were typing, which is, I mean, that's a very particular thing. So many of these security stories are like, they're the ones that are very serious and the ones that are more like science projects. This is a little more on the science project side of it. You know, you got a little cardboard thing and sheets are up and but it's cool. It's an interesting idea. And you're right, Leo. It is a little bit like our personas are so good that it leaks security. Maybe. Yeah. So it's good that Apple.
Tim, I got good news. I got bad news about the Vision Pro. Let's start off with the good news first. Let's try to focus on the good.
I assume that what Apple's doing here actually is not animating the eyes when you're typing passwords, right? Like just isn't doing that, and then this goes away. So it's good that it's fixed, but that's amazing.
And that, speaking of amazing, is your Vision Pro. Unless somebody has something else to
Vision. Let me slide this in here. There's now a Vision Pro. Vision OS 2.1 beta just came out, so they're on a beta track. What's in it? I don't know. Probably not a whole lot, but they continue to develop Vision Pro, and that's
if I can add on to that, it's possible that this new update also bricks Vision Pros. We won't know about it because no one's still using it. But as soon as I take it out of the yes, I'm jealous because I'm the only person in this panel who doesn't have one.
I don't have one. I don't have one.
Well, you had one.
Briefly, we had one. Yeah, we bought it. We set it back.
Apple is promoting in the iOS. They're promoting some of the 3D cameras that are available, Spatialify, but also the Voodoo streaming app now is out. So the camera version is out, as well as the player inside of Vision Pro, and pretty cool. You can get it. I think you can do it for half an hour for 10 people for free. So you can do little sessions if you want to figure out if it works. So it's a pretty slick little camera app. I would check that out as well.
I should mention that Jimmy Fallon looks pretty darn good in his Marcel Marceau t-shirt and his Vision Pros. I guess he and Tim Cook went on a walk. Did he? I didn't watch. But
I did watch it this morning. So yeah, it's.
Did he take it off or did he keep it on?
He took it off. It was a gag.
It
was a gag. Hey, I'm first here. He had the Vision Pro on. And he had the iPhone on a selfie stick. Like, hey, I'm here at the Fifth Avenue Apple Store. I'm first in line to get the new iPhone. Woo! And like, oh wow, look with the Vision Pro, it actually looks like Tim Cook is here, actually handing me my new phone. And why, silly Jimmy, I am Tim Cook. What the? And he takes it off, but not before he puts his hands all over Tim Cook's face. Say, wow,
God,
it
poor
feels
Tim.
like Tim Cook. And it's like, wow, the promotional opportunity here. He was a very, very good sport about that.
Tim Cook has to put up with, or should I call him Tim Apple?
Yep.
Representing the company.
It's not as lame as like people. I'm not a huge fan of Jimmy Fallon. He's fine. He just doesn't make a product that I can use. But like, so they take a walk from the Fifth Avenue store to the Soho store, like Tim's next stop on the Goodwill tour, and they have a nice little conversation with not a whole lot of goofy stuff happening. Jimmy Fallon does purchase from a sidewalk vendor two silly looking New York City caps, paying with Apple Pay, and so for a good 30 seconds, Tim Cook and he are wearing silly caps. But it's an interesting conversation. Well, actually, some questions that like I've always kind of wanted people to ask Tim Cook when they get 10 minutes with him, which is like, what were you like as a kid? Did you make stuff? Like, were you a tech person? You know, how does it make you feel when you walk past like the Apple store on a day like this and people are cheering? And he had a very, very cool response. Well, I know they're not cheering for me; they're cheering for Apple. But it's always interesting. It's always fun. Like, oh, that's nice.
That actually was a really good line because Fallon says, "Do you feel like a rock star as people are screaming for you?"
Yeah.
So no, it's Apple they love. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. I know it's not us. It's Apple you love with Andy Anako, Alex Lindsay, and Jason Snell.
That's okay. We'll accept the contact high. That's fine.
Leo.
We'll take the leftovers.
John Ashley. Yes.
We need to play it out.
It's time to conclude the Vision Pro segment.
Now you see, now you know, we're done talking the Vision Pro.
That's good. We didn't want to leave people hanging there, right?
Exactly.
That would have been bad.
Just a little inside baseball. If we don't do that, then the cart starts with the end the next time we play the cart, and it'll be very confusing if next week's Vision Pro segment starts with the ending. So we have to at some point because we only have one cart with both the opening and the closing on it.
Yeah, you should get
And then-
two.
and- and
one
then
60-second
hard, I
card
will
instead
tell
of two
you.
30-second cards. That's
Exactly.
really-
Saves money.
Mhm.
And I'm all about saving
And
money.
tape. And tape.
Also, I have the other card ready to go with this.
The cool.
Vision Pro.
Yeah.
Vision Pro.
Oh, now do we have to?
Now you have to play it again.
We
You
have
have to
to
play
close
that
that
twice
out,
also.
too? 'Cause
That's
what are
only
we
one
doing
card
here?
with two
No.
cuts. It's very frustrating. I know.
I'm
But-
feeling bad that I told people that didn't tell people that break time was over last week because are they still
yeah.
on break now? And then we just opened a new
They've been on break all week.
So they're
yeah.
like double broken right
It's
now.
your fault. You double
They're
broke.
starting to question their role in the capitalist machine, Jason. We can't have that. That's how
We are
people
very
get
frugal.
guillotined, Jason.
Can't we?
We are. We try to be frugal with your money. We know that $7 comes hard, and you work hard for it. But boy, we sure appreciate it. For those of you who are Club Twit members, $7 a month gets you ad-free versions of all the shows. You get access to special content that's only available for club members, like video from Hands on Windows, Micah Sargent's Hands on Mac, and many other wonderful shows. But most importantly, you're doing God's work, keeping Twit on the air as we slowly contract to a small, like, little point on your screen.
God is a member of Club Twit. Why aren't you?
Oh yeah, I should have mentioned that, but we don't like to. We don't like.
Actually, that's great because we get $21 because both the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost they have
geez.
separate.
You're going
they have
straight
separate
to hell,
Discord
Andy.
channels. Hey,
Oh wait a minute. In your Orthodox religion, you can't go to hell, right?
I hedge my bets. I was raised Catholic. I know what all the outs are. I know that there's a real chill parish that will kind of, if you get him on a Wednesday in the confession box, he'll let you slide.
There's no Piroshki in hell. I just want to warn you. Join the club, twit.tv/Club Twit, and we thank you so much.
Also, I want to note, we just put up Micah going to copyright school to take the copyright strike off of Twitch.
So we did the Apple event. I wasn't here for it. Thank you, Micah and Rosemary, for doing a great job. We don't put it up on YouTube because there is an Apple attorney who sits there looking and will literally send you a cease and desist. So we don't do it on on YouTube. But we do it. We did do it on Twitch and X and Facebook and what else? LinkedIn, Kick. And we got a takedown copyright strike from Twitch. And poor Micah had to go to copyright school, which he passed almost with flying colors. He missed one question, which I think was a trick question, frankly. The answer was wrong. Anyway, watch the video. You can watch it if you're a Club Twit member.
By the way, I want to say this right now because we should get this in. All of this is absolutely fair use, commenting on live streams of especially commercial announcements. And the only reason any of this stuff comes, I feel like people now think that, oh, well, what did you expect? Of course, YouTube took you down. The truth is, YouTube's algorithms aren't smart enough. Twitch's algorithms aren't smart enough to understand what fair use is. And they don't really want to. They got tired of getting sued. So they just preemptively take down all sorts of things. It's a huge problem for people who do video essays, commenting, film criticism, all sorts of things where it's absolutely something that people are allowed to do. But this whole concept of fair use, the concept that you can comment on other things while quoting them, has run headlong into algorithms that are created. I'm not saying that the algorithms are created in a lazy way. I'm saying that those companies aren't really motivated to do them right, because actually doing them right would cause them more heartache. So they just do them wrong, and the entire concept of being able to comment on other things fades into the background, not because it's illegal, but because it's inconvenient.
And now Twitch has joined that club.
Yes.
And they do the same thing.
That's a club we don't want you to join.
Please don't. And it has a real chilling effect on everything we do on all of our shows.
This is the
Notice
chill.
I haven't played a number of clips that I would like to play. Here's Micah doing very well at copyright school, I might add. He's an A student. Actually, he should have gotten a perfect score. The question he got wrong was, does fair use protect you if you play something copyrighted? And he said, no, fair use does not. It's a defense. Doesn't protect you. And they said, oh, yeah, no, it does protect you.
Yeah, that's a lie.
Except on Twitch and YouTube. Thanks very much. Anyway, I want to defend him. He got 100% perfect score.
Good job, Micah.
Good job,
Have you tried to take those? Have you tried to because they'll give you a strike and then you can.
Yeah, that's what he did. He got a strike. He had to go to copyright school.
No, but on YouTube, you can say, no, that's fair use. And then they have to
we appeal it every single time. Doesn't matter. And we have, how many strikes do we have now, John Ashley, that we have not gotten?
And they're strikes, not flags.
Ooh, I have to double check.
I think we have 2 strikes. We only get 3.
Yeah, you can't go to 3, but
we were off Twitch for a week.
I don't know about Twitch, but on YouTube, I haven't gotten a strike.
Well, you will know about Twitch,
2 days.
Alex.
Twitch.
You will learn about Twitch. Trust me.
Well, I'm not going to learn about Twitch. So the that's a. If you're not doing games, I don't think there's any market there. So on YouTube, I wantonly ignore the rules and almost never.
Yeah, well, we don't.
Yeah.
We do.
I don't know why. Because you're doing Apple stuff.
Well, there's an Apple attorney who spends his time looking for you to do that. Do you stream when you do office hours? You don't stream the Apple stuff, do you?
No, because we do second year.
Right.
That's how we.
That's what we're going to have to do from now on. And I'm sorry, because, but that's it's a chilling effect, and that's the way it is. What can you do?
Because I get lots of flags. I get flags almost every day.
We're talking strikes.
Okay.
You're a maverick. You're a rogue.
I can ignore flags.
I'm not monetizing, so I'm like, whatever.
I kind of had your attitude for a long time, and then I was told by my staff, you will no longer be able to stream if you don't stop it.
Right, and if I got strikes, I'd probably be more, But I think YouTube is 99% of its flags now, except for companies like Apple and the Eagles. Like, we definitely don't play any Eagles. It's like no Eagles. Those guys have no sense of humor.
Why am I in a little window and everyone else is full screen? My question exactly. Thank you very much, Vance. Charisma. All right, it's time, since we just did this. Let's do it. It's a time for our entertainment segment. Oprah says no.
Hooray for Hollywood.
Hooray for Hollywood. There's no business like Oprah buys back her Apple TV documentary and locks it away. She did, remember, 1 billion phones in your pockets, y'all, or whatever she said on that Apple event. Well, maybe she doesn't feel so good about it anymore. She had a deal with Apple, but it ended in 2022. And is the documentary, has anybody seen it? No, we don't know why. She bought back the rights. Apparently, she and the filmmaker clashed on the final product because Kevin McDonald, the filmmaker, would not make requested edits, according to Engadget. Spokesperson for Oprah says, as the Apple TV deal was coming to an end, Ms. Winfrey bought back the rights to her docuseries and since has decided to put the doc on hold. I wonder what stuff was in there.
So does she own tigers or monkeys? Either one will get you in trouble in a streaming show.
Her?
She could get on Netflix, though, with tigers or monkeys.
So was it a docu about her?
Yeah, it was a biodoc that she was an authorized biodoc as part of like a large package of deals that stuff she was creating for Apple.
I mean, her life was pretty complicated early on, so I can see why she'd want to have a lot of control over that and not be willing to do that.
If you can write a check and take it back, why not?
She's a multi-billionaire. She's very, very wealthy. Oh, wait a minute. I just got a note from Apple One Recruiting. They currently have a remote work job for me.
There you go. Don't worry, they'll hire you for remote, and then they'll tell you have to go back.
They're asking you to. They're asking you to go away, go far.
This is the new thing, by the way.
How do you feel about
pig
Cleveland?
butchering is offering me jobs. They got the wrong guy.
Excellent Tootsie reference. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Wait,
who's sending you the job offers?
Huh?
Who sent you the job
offers? Pig butchers. This is not a real person.
Oh, God.
This is a scam. I'm going to respond, and Angela or Amelia from the Apple One Recruiting and Staffing Company is going to say, oh, have you invested in crypto lately? So I am going to do what everyone should do, delete and report junk. Bye-bye.
Sometimes I feel like I want to pretend, but I don't. I'm like,
don't.
oh yeah. They're I haven't been in town in a while. You want to get drinks? And I so often want to be like, yeah, let's do it. How about tonight?
I mean, I'm just disappointed that you're using up some of our podcast time for this. I got a message saying that I've got a UPS package that can't be delivered. Okay, but I'm
get on out. Go ahead, Andy.
I'm leaving it aside.
Run home. Get your UPS delivery.
No, clearly not.
I have a jingle for that. I'll play sometime. Danny Boyle. I interviewed Danny Boyle when he did the Steve Jobs movie. And I never got to talk to him again, maybe because I was a little bit critical of it. I don't know. That was the one where it was backstage with Steve at a variety of
the
events.
Aaron Sorkin.
Yeah, the Aaron Sorkin one.
Yeah, and it really was not good. But I love Danny Boyle.
Yeah.
Slumdog Millionaire. He's done so many Train Spotting. He was making the new Train Spotting when I talked to him.
Millions is an underappreciated Danny Boyle. Great movie.
Great director. Mm-hmm. He also did 28 Days Later, which was probably, in my opinion, the best zombie flick.
Yeah.
He's got a new one, which he shot on an iPhone 15. Now, you might say, well, when they shoot an ad on iPhone 15, that's a gimmick, right? But to shoot a whole major motion picture on iPhone 15, he must really like it.
I think he did 28 Days. I think he did that with a Canon XL1.
That's right.
So this is probably significantly better than what he had before.
I was looking forward to like your take on this, because this is based on like a paparazzi photo, and because nerds are nerds, they noticed like one of the camera rigs off to the extreme right side of this photo appeared to be what could be an iPhone bolted to an $80 million like cinema camera in a huge rig, and later on somebody was able to confirm it with people who are working on the set that he's shooting this with like iPhone 15s.
Yeah, and he's like Soderbergh.
I couldn't make it out. I couldn't even make out the rig.
I know.
I think someone in our group had picked it out. It's okay. And I can't think of it right now.
But what's the point of having like if you're going for it for a specific look, like
size
doesn't having that big
we're talking
like,
about
cinema lens like actually like undo like all this like iPhone looking sort of video that you get from there?
I don't think he's trying to make an iPhone looking. I think he's trying he's like Steven Soderbergh in the sense of no one's done this before, so I'm going to be the first one to do it. I can get the budget to do it. He knows that storytelling is more important than the camera. So he knows that all I got, that's what he did with 28 Days is that he didn't need to have a big film camera. He had a great story, and I think that so he knows that he can do that, and he's interested in the new tech. And the only way to get the new tech to be better is to use it. For instance, when Final Cut, the big jump for Final Cut, I think it was 3 or 4, was because Walter Murch cut Cold Mountain on Final Cut, and Apple dedicated engineers to that for years, to make sure that he got what he needed. The best way for them to, for him to move the industry forward is to use the phone, and then he probably sent a steady stream of requests back to Apple going, this is missing, this is missing, this is missing. I really wish I had this. I really wish that I had that. Bscript, by the way, Bscript, I think is the company that made the case that he's using.
Here's the zoom in on whatever. Where's the phone?
Behind that lens, it's like hidden in there.
This is which end is the lens?
It's like a Canon.
Oh, there's that would be the camera right here. That plane right there.
I think so. Or right about and it's again a lot of us have tried to push the envelope of a lot of these things, and I put lenses on the front of iPhones before, but
if he had an Arri Alexa on this thing, it wouldn't be that much bigger, right? It'd just be like
it
that
wouldn't
big.
Be that much more expensive. Like he's doing it because he wants to do it on an iPhone, and we're all talking about this movie. I mean, filmmakers are having a hard time getting.
He doesn't need to do that to get publicity.
Yeah, I mean
think he.
If he's not going to be able to get the footage he wants, that's not going to be a good thing.
But I don't think. So but he got the footage he wanted with an with a Canon XL1, which is significantly lower resolution, significantly less power, significantly like it was a fraction of what this is capable of. Right. And so I think that, he knows that you can tell the story and you can get I'm sure that there was a lot of testing to make sure that he could get the shots that he wanted to get, with that, so I think I think that's his big advantage. And I think that, he knows what he can get out of that camera and that he can tell the story again, especially when that your story, if you feel strong enough about your story that it's going to tell its own, it's going to work because it's a great story and that it flows, and you're willing to play with the technology, which he has been willing to do almost since day one. He's playing with this stuff to push the envelope. And I think there's certain filmmakers like him, like Steven Soderbergh, like others that want to say, I was the first one to do this thing that a lot of other people are going to do. And he's past like having to prove anything to anyone. He just wants to, but I think he likes to be the one that is probably It's probably a race between him and Steven Soderbergh. Who's going to use the iPhone first?
Yeah. I mean, it's.
I wanted to shoot a film with it. I just didn't have the time and money.
Yeah. I mean, he was the Canon XL1 on 28 Days Later. Part of it was because he was shooting in the middle. Yeah, he was shooting in the middle of London. That was supposed to have like no people in it, and the permits that he got for it or whatever were that you can do it, but you're gonna have to do it like in a sneaky way with lots of like little tiny shots. And it was almost it wasn't a hey, wouldn't it be cool if we tried to stretch the envelope? This is going to be like the way that we will get the shots that we need to get. So I'm just, I am absolutely being explicit about my ignorance here. That because it just seems like a huge amount of trouble compared to, well, if we're going to use consumer hardware, why don't we use like a Sony A series? If we're going to, so I'm really looking forward to when this is released and he does the interviews and talks about it, because it would be cool if it really were like.
You saw one shot too. He may be stealing shots or grabbing shots. The thing is, he can take that phone off.
He's going to steal it with that huge rig.
No, I'm saying.
Sorry.
That's the whole thing. Is he could take that off and just go shoot some of the plates without that rig.
A very small handheld rig that they could use, and maybe even multiples that they could shoot at the same time from different angles. Like we don't know, right? Is this it's this setup and it's a very traditionally shot film, or are there some shots where he wants to keep it consistent, so he's using the iPhone throughout, but then there are different setups in different parts of the movie?
That's what I was gonna ask. Is that something a filmmaker would do if they want to make, just like they don't want to switch film stock from scene to scene?
No,
to
it would
scene,
definitely look.
They want to make sure that it's normally being shot with something more like an iPhone with just a simple rig on it, and just for these shots where they actually can't get around having to need.
If you think about it, he's the one who created the fast-moving zombies, right? Which I always thought, if zombies are so slow, what's the big deal? You just walk away. But the fast-moving,
scary.
That's what makes it
super scary. That like you think you're away from them, but they will not stop. They don't tire. They don't get bored. They will always be.
And they're really
you have
fast.
to sleep. Yeah.
And so it might be that's the unique zombie kind of angle. Well, who knows what he's doing with it? Although it looks like it's on a dolly.
I mean, in this case,
Andy, recommended a great book many moons ago that I really love that taught me how the camera has changed how movies are made. Mark Harris's Pictures at a Revolution. And these are the movies in the 60s that finally could go out in the field because they didn't need these giant cameras that had to be, surrounded by soundproofing because they were so noisy, shot on a soundstage because they were so big. Suddenly, with Bonnie and Clyde and movies like it, filmmakers could sit in the car and get these amazing shots.
Saturday Night Fever was a big deal. They were able to, I think one of the things that they were talking about in that book, or another historian was talking about, that this is when you finally start to see ceilings in movies, because
there were no ceilings before that.
Right, like you had to do it in studio, and also you started to see stolen shots. Like I didn't get a permit to shoot here in the Port Authority bus terminal. I just shot footage, or I just sent a B crew just to walk around the city capturing snippets of things. So
Boyle may be doing this as a gimmick or a publicity stunt, but it is the case that a different camera and a smaller rig can get you stuff that you couldn't get before.
And, again, it is also using it as how you push that forward, it now supports ACES, which is, the Academy color encoding system that allows, Apple is definitely building this so that people can make films with it now.
That's really interesting.
They're definitely, Apple is all in on understanding that the phone is not a phone. It is a camera.
Yeah.
It is a camera, and they're pushing down that path. Their target market, like everyone else, is not the big filmmakers, but having someone like Danny Boyle do it justifies it for lots of YouTubers and lots of other people that are influencers and everything else, going, well, if he can shoot a whole film with it, I can shoot X, Y, and Z with this. And so I think that there's a wider market, just like Kodak. They love to have filmmakers talking about the fact that they're using Kodak, but they're really selling to lots of people that are much wider market, because that filmmaker is not actually producing that much film. Using that much film.
A shock to me to see that Apple got a failing grade from GLAAD for LGBTQ representation. I thought Apple was doing a pretty good job, but GLAAD says not. The Family Plan, Flora and Son, and Ghosted, the only studio of the 10 named in the GLAAD Studio Responsibility Index to receive a failing grade.
Yeah, saying that 17% of its studio releases featured LGBTQ characters. I don't know if there are other metrics there, but they mentioned that Warner Brothers Discovery got a poor rating. A24, Lionsgate, Paramount, Sony, Walt Disney received simply insufficient. NBC, when you're behind Netflix, NBC, Universal, and Netflix saying fair. Amazon was the only studio to receive a good rating. Maybe that has something to do with like how much they can actually produce, how much they can actually bankroll. Apple maybe that would go up and down year to year because they can't produce as many things year to year
I feel like Apple is the wokest of all the studios, and for it to not get a passing grade, it seems surprising. They did get a bunch of Emmys. The first Emmy for one of the best shows on Apple TV Plus, Slow Horses.
Yeah.
Finally, I put it off for a long time. I was waiting to see how many seasons are going to show up. I finally jumped into it with my son, and so don't tell me anything, but I'm in season 2 now, and it is so good. It is so good.
So good, and primarily because of the star of the show, whose name escapes me. I always want to Gary
Oldman.
I always want to say Gary Sinise.
It's nominative determinism. He's hard
to get his name right because he is such a freaking chameleon. You never see him in any role.
Yeah. Exactly. Boy, he's good in this. As the flatulent older director of the Slough House, which is where all the spies who got in trouble at MI6 end up, and they call them the slow horses, but they always solve the case, don't they?
Really
You're
good.
on season 2. Yeah, that's a good one. A good one. Yeah. Morning Show got a Emmy for Billy Crudup as outstanding supporting actor in a drama series.
That's his second of those.
Yes.
Character.
Primetime winning shows Palm Royale, Lessons in Chemistry, which people said was quite good. I didn't see it. Masters of the Air, which was the brothers.
Band of Brothers. That was good. I like that one a lot.
Yeah. The Air War, and Girls State.
And they got one for that. Remember that Fuzzy Feelings holiday commercial from last season where the woman who does those felt stop motion puppets got an Emmy for outstanding commercial.
That was an excellent commercial.
It was. It had a great look.
Slow Horses got outstanding writing for a drama series. Some of these are kind of weak. Outstanding music composition for a limited or anthology series for Lessons in Chemistry, sound mixing for Masters of the Air, and an outstanding commercial for Fuzzy Feelings, because they were all made out of felt. Well, I think that's the entire entertainment segment right there for you.
Are you entertained?
I hope so, David S. Pumpkins. It is that time of year again, isn't it? Once more. Apple Music Classical 2.0. Are we happy, Andrew?
Yeah, they added. Now they have huge amounts of the booklets that often come with classical collections.
Booklets, yes.
Yeah, I mean, oftentimes you'll buy a 2 CD set and it'll be twice as wide as 2 CDs because it has an actual book on. Wow. Here's the opera. Here are 8 different translations of it. Here's the story of this recording. Here's the history of whatever.
You need that with classical music, I think.
It's a really good bonus. I'd love to see. I'd love to see on every single album that's out there. If there's if it was produced during the album days where there's actual good liner notes, it would be reproducing all the liner notes. But that is something that a lot of people are going to really appreciate for classical. And if they are trying to sell this as a separate thing, something that's not just like Spotify or Apple Music with one classical department, they're doing a good job of making sure they keep adding enhancements that make sense for classical music listeners. It's good stuff.
I enjoy Apple Classical. I do. And I guess in some quarters that would also be considered entertainment. So I hope you've enjoyed the entertainment segment. You're watching MacBreak Weekly. Get ready, boys. Picks of the week coming up next. Let us kick off our picks of the week with Mr. Andrew Inatko.
Well, of course, the tradition of people like calling in sick on the day that their iPhone is supposed to be delivered so that they can, they're going to say because they want to make sure that's not stolen by porch pirates, but actually they just want to have it as soon as they possibly can.
Yes.
So I learned this, I don't know how long this has been happening, but I just learned about it this year. FlightAware.com, which is the website that will let you track like flights that are actually in the air. They actually have a live service, FlightAware.com/live/iPhone. So if you have the UPS tracking data, you can it will actually help you figure out what plane it's actually on.
These are all planes with iPhones on them?
These are UPS transports. I don't know what the metric is. It really is just this like one page, but it was so funny to watch it like on the first shipping day. It was just this constellation of airplanes like descending into Tennessee.
Wow.
And it gives you a little guide of like, here's how to interpret it to figure out like what flight it's actually on. Like, oh, here's UPS 77, a Boeing 748 in Shenzhen Baoan International Airport, destination Anchorage, and it should be arriving there at 1:19 Alaska time. It's like I could see myself actually doing that because it doesn't help me know that hey, you got to be home sometime between 8 a.m. and like 4 p.m. But it's like if you're gonna like make this a holiday, make this a true celebration, just like the Santa tracker for your kids. This is going to be like the
Santa
iPhone
tracker,
Santa
isn't
tracker.
it? It's the iPhone Santa tracker. So the FlightAware folks say when you look at your receipt, you'll have a time that the departure scan happened. That's the departure time for the flight.
Right.
So then you match it up to the flight here. Notice how many go to Muhammad Ali International Airport. Of course, that's Memphis.
Yeah.
Nope, that's Louisville.
Louisville,
Memphis.
I mean. Sorry, of course.
Yeah, it's FedEx to Memphis.
Right. FedEx to Memphis, UPS is Louisville.
to Louisville, yeah.
Which is, of course, the home of Muhammad Ali, so I should have gotten that right in the first place.
Yeah.
As the San Francisco Giants baseball announcer, check it. Check it.
I think you only really have a problem if you sign up for the premium plan just so that you can get a text message when your plane lands. That's when you might have a problem.
Yes. Thank you for that fun pick, Mr. Alex Lindsay, pick of the week.
Yeah, so I was talking about making icons before shapes, and one of the things that came up in office hours, Jason Beisch had recommended was the Noun Project. And if you haven't seen the Noun Project, this is, whoops, I hit the wrong button there. There we go.
That's an empty chair. You have in your still store an empty chair.
So,
okay.
So there's a subscription here. It's not particularly expensive. It's, I think I paid the yearly subscription, or I think I did. Yeah. It's like, there's a subscription. If you need icons though, like let's say these are all royalty-free icons. And so you can go, oh, I would like a camera. And what it's going to do is show me these are lots and lots of icons.
Can you use those?
Yeah, you can use them, and so you can and they have SVG and pings. So what I do, it's a royalty-free license here. But what I do with these, I download the SVGs, I then take them into Keynote. I do break apart so that Keynote can see them, and then I save them as shapes. So then I just have shapes and so I'm converting these to shapes all the time. And there's just so many, and I like
this artificial intelligence icon. This guy's handcuffed his iPhone to his wrist.
Yeah. So I mean, there's just there's millions of icons in there, and when you're trying to put together a presentation, you want to throw something together. A lot of times, it just you may go back and do something on your own someday in the future, but you can find almost anything that you need for an illustration in here, and it's relatively inexpensive if you do this kind of thing. So
nice. Oh, you do have to subscribe so that you get the royalty-free versions. Okay,
yeah.
That's not expensive. $3 a month paid yearly for icons only. If you want icons and photos, $10 a month.
Yeah,
very nice.
All I use is the icons. I don't really use the photos, but for icons, it's pretty awesome.
TheNounProject.com. Jason Snell. Pick of the week.
All right. This is, it's going to take a couple steps to get there. I've been traveling for the last week. I went to Memphis, not Louisville.
Okay. Is that the Elvis Presley International Airport?
It is not. I forget who it's named for, but it's not anybody you've ever heard of. But I went there. I was not in a FedEx box. It's a very large airport with a very small portion devoted to human beings, and the rest of it is for boxes. Anyway, I went there because that's where St. Jude Children's Research Hospital is. It is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. And my pals at Relay and I do a fundraiser every September, stjude.org/relay. And we did a podcast-a-thon. We did a telethon. So you can go on YouTube and you can watch all 12 hours of us being live on the internet that we did last Friday. There's some fun games in there. I was one of the 5 hosts who held it together, sort of, for 12 hours. Anyway, I've been doing enough travel that I realized all of us really savvy tech people have figured out a USB-C is the future, and we're there, and it's great. And then you travel and you realize, oh, I would like to charge my iPhone while I'm sitting in the airplane seat. And what is it there to charge? It's a USB-A port. Or I'm on a train in the UK, like I was this summer. What is there to charge? A USB-A port. I'm in a hotel room. They've got USB ports by the bed. What are they? They're USB-A ports is what they are.
Everywhere.
So my pick of the week is super dumb, but I bought these cheap things on Amazon. This is, you can get whatever. These are base Sailor USB to USB-C adapter 2-pack. But the point is they're relatively cheap. They come in a little Ziploc bag. They're teeny tiny things. But what they do is they let you take your USB-C plug that you take with you that is perfectly reasonable that a normal human being would bring with them and quickly adapt it to USB-A just for the purpose of charging. I think it does data. I don't care. I only really use it for charging on airplanes or in hotel rooms.
What one hopes is it does not
pass data. You don't even want it. Exactly. All you want is the power. Anyway, the nice thing is these things are tiny and you can put them in a little bag, maybe even the bag they come in, slip them in your travel bag. And then when you're sitting on the airplane thinking, oh, I'm at 40% battery and I'm going to land in 2 hours and then I got to get a taxi and all, like, just charge. But you need to have these in order to do it. So find yourself. You may have them laying around. If so, get your own little Ziploc bag and put it somewhere in your backpack or whatever. But I just bought these on Amazon, and I'm even using their little bag, and it's very convenient to have it. So while I was traveling to and from Memphis, I had a big flight delay on the way home. I was able to keep my phone functional because I had my little adapter into American Airlines seat back USB-A charger.
Yep.
So.
Can I add a recommendation here that those of you who are listening to this right now who think that's a good idea, order them right now. Also, they're really, really cheap, so order them like in multiples. And the number of times where I've saved my own butt by simply at some point that I long forgot, realize that, okay, I've got a backpack that I often carry. I've got like a laptop bag I often carry. I've got a car. And basically say, okay, so I'll need 6 copies of this, and I will just basically put one in each one of these. And I will only remember it's there when I realize, damn it, I wish I hadn't done. Hey, I do. Thank you, Andy from 2022.
Yeah.
Do it right now.
Yeah, you can buy, I bought a 2-pack. You can buy like a 4-pack. I do recommend if you can just slip them into that little utility pocket of various things. So there's always like get a pen in there, get a little adapter in there. But like USB-A, I think we've reached the point now where tech people assume that it's gone because we've gotten it out of our lives. But boy, charging on the road, it's all still USB-A. So get some little tiny adapters, put them in your travel stuff. And
if I could channel Steve Gibson, who will be on this broadcast momentarily, get the version that does not pass data.
Because you just want to charge.
You just want the charge, and it's always risky to plug your USB device into a strange USB port. Here's one from Amazon, same price, JS aux USB-C data blocker. It's A to C.
That works.
Same thing, same price.
Get it?
But it doesn't pass data, so that's
because you're not using this for anything other than charging at this point. It's USB-A. Unfortunately, is still kind of a universal device charging port. So get an adapter. Be happy. Put it with your stuff. We know you are eradicating USB-A from your lives, right? We know it. It's the world.
Hotels and airplanes.
But so as a result, I used to keep these around my office, right? Now it's just put them in bags so that I've got them when I travel. That's the only time I need them.
I did this with reading glasses, pens, and box cutters. I just buy so many that I saturate the environment so that I never lack for one. And I think I'm going to do the same thing with these. So that there's always one somewhere in your pocket, in your purse, in your carry-all. There's always one lying around somewhere. But get the ones that don't pass data.
You can get a 4-pack of those for $10 on Amazon.
And they're red so that you know that they don't, because you might accidentally say, "Oh, I should use this for a data connection." You don't want to. That's not going to work. Good tip. And boy, thank you for raising more than $800,000 for St. Jude.
This year, yeah.
That is remarkable.
Perilously close to $1 million. The podcastathon's fun. I mean, it's 12 hours, but I recommend if people are kind of curious.
It's on YouTube. You can watch it.
You can scrub through it and find. We played a bunch of different games. We did a version of Hungry Hungry Hippos with human beings. There are a couple.
I'm going to get taken down now. Mike Hurley's going to make me go to copyright school.
But but were we on the air for 12 hours? Yes, friends, we were, noon to midnight. And we talked to John Siracusa about whether things were robots or not. We did that for a while. It's just lots of nonsense. We had a good time. It was great.
Jason if you ever want to see Jason in a hard hat.
Oh yeah. Well, Leo, you'll love this. We used a sledgehammer to smash a PC. And then when that one was smashed to death, we got another PC out and smashed that one.
Why not? Why not?
It's on brand for us. We're kind of Apple people. So we
Mike Hurley, Stephen Hackett, Kathy Campbell, Casey Listen, of course, our very own.
Yeah,
Jason
sledgehammer that thing.
Yeah.
We had fun.
It reminds me of the fun we used to have on our annual New Year's Eve.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah,
and let me tell you,
raise that kind of money. That's amazing.
Hour 11 of being on live on the internet. Everybody gets a little bit punchy, but it's fun.
You start to understand why Jerry Lewis relied on the Percodan. That's there are times when just undoing your bow tie is not going to do it. You're going to have to.
Yeah.
True story.
Jason Snell, sixcolors.com. That's the place to go if you want to see all the different shows he's on, including Relay FM. Just go to sixcolors.com/Jason.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
We'll give you a nice, sharp, snappy salute.
Good to be home. Good to be home.
Yes. Yeah, it's good to have you back. And thank you again for filling in for me. I really appreciate it. It makes it possible for me to travel as well. Although instead of raising $80,000, I spent $80,000. So it's not quite the same. No, I didn't. That's Andy Anako from GBH. When does Boston call again?
Thursday at 12:30 Eastern Time. Go to WGBHnews.org to stream it live or later.
Yeah, in fact, somebody put a link up to all of your previous episodes, I guess, or something like that. Yeah, so they're all on the air if you want to, on the internet if you want to listen. Mr. Alex Lindsay's at officehours.global. What's coming up at Office Hours?
We have a bunch of audio experts tomorrow from different generations.
I could use some help. Yeah.
Answering questions there, so that should be a lot of fun. We just today we had the founder of Isadora, which is the tool that we actually use to run our entire show. So Mark Caliglio came on, and he was talking about basically Isadora now has a way to pass not only camera but also data from one place to another. You can actually send DMX controls to lights and so on and so forth, thousands of miles away, all using the new Zoom not the new Zoom, but the year-old Zoom API now to make that all work. And so he was kind of outlining that for us today. Andy not Anako, but Andy Carluccio was on last Thursday talking about the new.
He's been so helpful.
Yeah, and he was talking about some of the new releases that Zoom has had. So we're really excited to see it. If Andy could not confirm or deny how it was used, but if you really want to see Zoom at its height, and I wasn't working on this, by the way, I think and we talked a little bit about it over last week. The Harris Oprah session was probably the state of the art when it comes to hybrid events, using Zoom, what looks to be Zoom.
We can't confirm or deny.
So we talked a lot about that on Monday. We kind of broke down that show on Office Hours, or just broke it down at the very beginning of the Q&A. We just spent 10 or 15 minutes kind of digging into, okay, this looks like something that looks like tiles, but it isn't quite tiles, and this looks like ISO, but it's not quite ISO, and so we think that's there.
Something
but
new coming.
Yeah, so we kind of tore it apart. It was pretty interesting.
Now Burke is all excited because you said with Isadora he could send DMX commands over the internet, which
could.
means
He can
they
send
can
you
control my
DMX
lights, which are all running off a DMX board. Oh, I'm in trouble now.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and one of the possibilities is the potential of, instead of us joining over Zoom, you could theoretically join over this, and the advantage there would be potentially that you could control lights, you can pan and tilt cameras. Probably not something you need for the show, but if you're doing a cooking show or a how-to show, having your remote producers being able to take over everything in the studio while you're working would be. I'm
sure that's exactly what John Ashley and Anthony Nielsen would love to do right now.
Love to do that for you. Let's zoom in.
Leo, don't touch the mixer, whatever you do.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Jason. Thanks to all of you, especially to our Club Twit members, for joining us as you do every week. I'm sorry it's been a very long break that you've been on since the last time, since Jason. But from now, I can tell you officially, it's time to get back to work because break time is over. We'll see you next Tuesday. Bye-bye.